Well, I believe in good vibrations is what creates a beautiful nation. All you need is the will to do right, do right, do right.
And we're live. Welcome to a brand new episode of Anecdotally Cockney Steve Carrell and the guy who looks like V sounds to the... the guy who looks like V sounds the thing. Hey, everybody. I am your host, Jay Fry, and with me, as usual, is Sean. How's it going, Sean?
Yeah, it's Monday. We're here. It's been a week.
It has been a week.
So what's your favorite thing about the week? Was it the Liz Cheney going down in flames? Was it the Sam Harris committing career Harry Carey? Was it Trump endorsing his opponents?
It's got to be the Trump endorsements. They are hilarious. But I did enjoy the not so much the Liz Cheney going down in flames as much as the water carriers to try to put her out. Like this failure means you should run for president. Like, no, they didn't say that to Lincoln either.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Lincoln did become president, and that didn't go so well for, dissenters, let's say.
Worked out for the Blicks. But I was enjoying all of it. Just I don't watch Sam Harris. I don't care for Sam Harris. I think one of the weakest things you can do is pick on someone who has a faith-based anything. Like, there's nothing more ignorant to me than somebody who dismisses a conspiracy theory. Like Tim will always dismiss a conspiracy theory without a solid reason to dismiss. Like my dad would say, like the moon landing. If you wanted to call the moon landing fake, be like, son, I served in the Army for 8 years. Not once did I receive the proper size boots from the quartermaster. And you think the men in charge of that group are orchestrating things on such a large scale? I'm like, Dad, like you ran cargo. You weren't necessarily the most important thing they were dealing with at the time. But like he has a reason for it. Like he was a part of a system that you're talking about. Granted, that would have been Navy, but he was in the military, so he knows what the military is about and what they're not about. And so he can get some slack for that, but like every time Tim makes an argument against some sort of conspiracy theory, it really just makes the argument for it like so much more. Like Sam Harris, who did the same thing, talking about is it a conspiracy if we we're in a back room together discussing the best way to destroy an asteroid plummeting towards Earth? Oh, hold on. Let's admit. And our second guest of the evening, Neo Unrealist. How's it going, Neo?
He's not quite there yet. I just got him as a black screen.
Hmm?
Hopefully the potato didn't do him in.
Did the potato do him in?
I did just see a black screen.
Neo?
I don't see a microphone icon in the upper corner for his window either.
You do.
Now I see a microphone. He's got his microphone muted.
Okay, so now he's muted.
Turn the camera off, Neo.
Oh, yeah, I have to turn the camera on. Neo, are you Mark Zuckerberg?
Are we in the metaverse all of a sudden?
Are we already in the metaverse? There's nothing weirder than seeing that kind of stuff when it's a big tech guy and he's got something that blocks his camera.
Hey guys,
There you
he
go.
is.
some reason this thing defaults to speakers that don't exist.
Yeah, there's a small learning curve with the Google tools, and then the next time you log in, it'll be completely different. You're gonna have to do it again.
Mm-hmm. Also,
All
I
right.
think your camera's on too.
No, there's no camera.
Right, but it thinks the camera's on, so it's just showing a black screen.
It asks for permission to use it, but I mean, is it bothering you?
No.
Oh
No.
no.
It's just you could have your avatar or your little icon up instead of just a black screen.
Check the settings.
Not that we particularly care.
Whatever
Well,
you're
edit-
comfortable with, honestly.
I'll have my guy edit and post.
Yeah.
That's a new hat for you, Sean.
God damn it. All this unpaid labor. What am I, in Sea Org or something?
All right, I'll figure it out.
No worries, as long as it's not like draining for you. Because Garrick, if he had his camera on, it'd be draining his audio, which is the best thing possible for Garrick, really.
I literally remembered that I was supposed to go out with you guys like about 30 seconds before I typed that message.
Mm.
I'm watching the Mets and the Yankees. I'm like, am I supposed to do something tonight?
I sent you the message as the reminder, and then I was like, that I threw one in there with, Sean was supposed to talk to you over the weekend, my booker.
Well, that's what started me thinking, because I'm hearing my phone blow up. I'm like, oh shit, I'm supposed to do something.
That's when Sean found out he was my booker.
Yeah. He keeps giving me new tasks. How are the Mets this year?
Awesome.
Yeah.
He has to say that.
Well, no, he could be a
no.
Yankee fan.
No. You see, Met fans, they're born pessimists. So they'll 99% of the time before this year they would have told you, they suck, they're gonna lose. They'll find a way to ruin it.
Oh.
But no, they're under new ownership now. It's like almost being a major league team again.
I always thought they got short shrift because the Yankees pay to win, and I've always hated them. So
I never hated the Yankees for that. I just envied them. I mean, the Mets had owner that just couldn't afford the team, and it was like you're here in the biggest market in the United States, and it's like you're rooting for the Cleveland Indians.
hey now.
It's like the guy couldn't afford the team, literally. He got robbed by Bernie Madoff, and after that, it was like, dude, sell the team. You can't afford it anymore. So he finally gave up the ghost a couple years ago.
Yeah. I've always been fond of National League teams. Well, until they brought in the designated hitter. Anyway.
This year it doesn't make a difference. I was always one of those guys who was like, pitchers hit or bust, but
Right.
now that the DH is there, I've kind of gotten used to it, so it's like whatever.
Well, at least you get to have a cross-city, matchup. That's always nice.
I mean, that's always been there, so it's like the interleague games, they've always been exciting, but that's mostly for the fans. I mean, in the standings, it doesn't mean much.
Well, no, yeah, interleague play hardly ever makes a difference either way.
But it's like, since that's the natural rivalry, they make sure that they play every year.
I don't have much to say. I'm a Tigers fan.
Seriously? Actually, they've got a pretty good future. Their farm system is crazy strong.
Yeah, too bad the city isn't there, and MLB won't let them really be contenders. They can run spoiler for a couple of years maybe, but they won't ever be a true contender because
Do you know
the market's just not big enough.
is Detroit one of those markets where like they call themselves the Detroit Tigers, but the stadium is like some distant suburb?
Now, yeah, it used to be right down in the center of Detroit.
Oh yeah, like in basketball, the Detroit Pistons used to play in, I think, was it Auburn Hills?
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that like one of the most? Wasn't that one of the most like blighted neighborhoods in the city? And then they built a new stadium somewhere far away.
Well, Auburn Hills is outside of Detroit, but it for some reason, like
the Palace at Auburn Hills, I think that's
the Palace at Auburn Hills. For some reason, just everything happened in Auburn Hills. Like developers bought huge plots of land and did nothing with it, and then they just got bought up, and they put a big old like a stadium there, and I mean for music and then for sports. But they used to play inside Detroit.
Yeah, that didn't work so well because when the Pistons, I remember they won some championships. They had some crazy riots.
Oh, back when we once rioted when we won the Stanley Cup.
Where did the hockey team play in the same place as the basketball team, or did they have their own place?
They had their own place, Joe Louis Arena.
Yeah, we found out here in Phoenix that sharing a facility between basketball and hockey doesn't work.
Well, because the Rangers and the Knicks do it, and they don't seem to have any problems, but I just noticed it's not common.
Yeah, well, we built our stadium for the Suns, and the way it was set up, when you put the hockey arena in it, one end of the stadium got restricted view. You couldn't see all the way down to the end of the ice.
Oh,
well, I remember. Is this the same stadium they built around the time they got Charles Barkley on the team? Or is this
yes.
a new thing?
Well, it's the same thing. Well, it was America West Arena. I'll always call it America West Arena. I don't know what it's called now. It could be U.S. Airways. Could be something else. I have no idea what it's. Yeah, no idea what it's called.
Because the thing I noticed about that stadium over the years, it has got to be. I don't know. Do they have windows or something? It is the brightest lit arena of anything in the NBA. I was like, do they have natural sunlight?
No, they just have huge halogens up top.
It's like this big. It's open. It's indoors, but you're watching on TV. It's like almost like you're watching an outdoor game.
Yeah, it's very well lit. I think they did that because the Coliseum where the Suns used to play, was tiny. It only had, I don't even think it had an upper deck. It was tiny.
Well, the old place that the Portland Trailblazers used to play in was like that. It was like a high school gym.
Yeah, it was just wholly inadequate, and no matter what the TV cameras did, it looked yellow. So any Phoenix Suns game always looked yellow. So
it could be that they used like the bright colors on the floor and the seating.
Yeah. So when they built the new stadium, they made sure to light the hell out of it.
Holy shit! Speaking of stuff, about an hour before your stream starts, I saw something on Twitter that I was like, "You ever played the game Saints Row or one of them?" It's like a Grand Theft Auto clone.
Yeah, I haven't played them personally, but I've watched several videos with them.
Okay, for some reason, they've released this game, or it's going to release tomorrow, and they've gone totally woke. The fans hate it. They embargoed this. The first sign you get is they embargoed the reviews, and I think they just released them today, the day before the game comes out. And this thing's getting savaged. So it's like, on top of being buggy and not working, it's like woke. And I'm like, do they really think the people that buy and play this type of game is into the woke shit?
I don't get it. Like, so I've been watching Modern Family, and it gets a lot of credit for how they have like an openly gay couple and the interactions between the couple and the family and the couple's family, because one's an actual gay character and the other's not gay, but they play a gay couple.
This is the show that had like Ed O'Neill in it, right?
Yeah, Ed O'Neill, Sofia Vergara. Yeah, Ariel Winter.
Okay, here's the thing about it. They had a gay couple, and I didn't watch the show regularly. I just like caught the commercials and maybe a few minutes. It didn't seem like a woke show to me, though.
Not at all. Like there's even
mean,
lines like
just because there's a gay character doesn't make it woke.
Yeah, but it's been credited for being a long-running series that had a gay couple on it the entire time. And Eric Stonestreet, he's straight, but plays a gay character, and Mitch, who I don't know who he is, his name, but he's actually Anthony Rapp's cousin. So redhead still. And he comes running. There's
Fraggle.
Hey, Garrick.
Hey, what's going on, Neo? Been a hot minute.
I'm also here. Sean's here too.
Hi, Sean. Jay, I'm starting to think you really don't like me.
Now?
Yeah. It's starting to really sink in.
Is Raggle Fraggle one of the guys that sends Matt and Blonde super chats that they can't read?
No, he's polite with it.
Yes, I'm not. If I'm spicy, it's easily glazed over.
I'm like, if you send a super chat and Blonde's like, oh, I can't read that one. I was like, well, that must be interesting.
That's like the last 17 chats I sent to Blonde.
Not gonna read that one.
Yeah. My last one was just eat makeup so you're pretty on the inside at least.
So did y'all already talk about Clue?
No, we have actually.
We haven't got there yet.
We need to get there, but they even go out of their way. Like the gay couple has even talked about how they don't, and one of the writers is gay too. So they're usually pretty spot on with the gayness. And they'll be like,
that's my biggest memory of what that show is. I just remember the character played by Ed O'Neill doesn't like the shorter, chubbier gay guy, or at least he didn't when the show started.
No. The chubby guy is big. The shorter, chubbier guy is the kid, his son.
No. I'm thinking of this scene when they were in the locker room and they were getting dressed or undressed or something, and their asses touched, and he called it the splashdown. And I laughed. I said, "That's funny."
Yeah. Oh no, it's hilarious. But they'll even say things like, "This is why we go out of town for Pride weekend." Is the traffic? Like they're so gay, they don't care about the gay. But Nathan Lane comes on and he's gay as all hell. But they do it really well. Like there was just an episode about women empowerment, and they even hit the women make 79 cents on the dollar. And the son was like, "Oh wow, that's crazy!
See,
I didn't know that."
Probably the thing I catch off is the writing is how real people talk.
Yeah.
Like there was this movie Crash that it even won like these awards. But if you watch it, like who the fuck talks like this?
Or anything by Diablo Cody or Quentin Tarantino. Like I appreciate your jive smooth rapping, but no.
I think Quentin Tarantino, he just likes to drop N-bombs. That's his...
Like Django Unchained. Does it need to be 3 hours and 20 minutes? Take the N-word out and it's 17 minutes long.
It's like, okay, dude, you get the point. Okay, you're saying the word.
But the Bonner family, so they're doing women's empowerment, and this woman who's literally like the reincarnation of Joe from the Facts of Life. They have
is that Nancy McKeon or which one?
The Joe, yeah, the rough one.
Yeah, it was
with the leather jacket.
Nancy McKinnon's character on Facts of Life. Yes.
Yeah.
And she comes out and she helps the women change a tire, and everyone's just so impressed by her empowerment. And at the end, she's like, "Let me just reset the tire pressure in the car," and she steals the car. And I'm like, and that's how you end the woke bullshit. She drives away and like, huh, she's doing a job normally suited for men. I'm like, okay. They do a great job with it.
Speaking of women's empowerment, did you see they've made a reboot of A League of Their Own?
Oh god, yeah. I've just seen the commercials for it.
Okay, here's the
I
stupid
saw
thing.
the ad, but I didn't see the commercial.
As a movie or as a show?
No, this
Show.
is a series, a streaming
Yeah.
series,
Okay, of course it
and
is.
Movies are dead, Sean. Series is all the rage.
okay. But here's the stupid thing: A League of Their Own. Not saying it's the best movie I ever saw, but it's watchable. It holds up well. Even
There
if
is
you
no
don't like,
crying in baseball.
yes,
Don't
if
you
you
know?
don't like the actresses, you don't have to like Rosie O'Donnell. She was actually perfect for that role. Okay.
Absolutely.
Madonna was awful though.
But this, apparently, it's all about queer, black, what is this? I just want you to watch it. If you're gonna watch that, it was a movie about a women's baseball league, but now they've altered it to this grotesque thing where everybody's lesbian and it's all about queerness and black. What is this?
And that, all right, so in a brief history of gay, for those of you who aren't of the know, the gay boom didn't happen until after the war. And the exact reason for the gay boom is everybody's funny cousin from bumfuck Egypt went to war. And they met, Fast Eddie from Chicago, who was like, oh yeah, we're gay. Vibrant scene. Dudes doing dudes. And that's why when you come back from the war, all those funny uncles that didn't have wives stayed at the ports. San Francisco, New York. Those ports became havens for the gays, and that's how you get Greenwich Village and the entirety of San Francisco. So before that, you were quiet about it. And you just had the funny uncle. Like, if you're lucky.
There was no internet.
Yeah.
And everybody was religious.
Mm-hmm.
So you couldn't come out, you couldn't really advertise that shit.
Yeah. Like, in the big cities, you might have had a secret club. Like the Sisters of Dorothy or something to that effect. But in the wider world, you kept your mouth shut about it. Until the end of the war, and these enclaves came about with everybody's funny uncle.
Somebody's gonna have to explain to me how that Key West came about then.
It's any port city. Well, that's eventually when there's enough of them, they transport.
So
to
you're
new
saying
locations.
it has something to do with boats?
Well, that's how they ferried everybody to and from war.
Yeah, they weren't flying people to Europe and back. And I mean, some of them they did, but most of them took a boat.
Then you've got to think about, in World War II, there was 12 million men under arms and very few women. It was not like today. And they were gone for from 1941 to 1945, so 4 years.
Yeah.
There were 4 years in a world without women.
Mm. And not everybody's French, so you had to pair up somewhere. But God, Navy got such a bad rap after that.
I resent that remark.
It was worse in the Pacific. I mean, exactly. At least if you're stationed in Europe, you're in the UK.
Yeah.
You made France an occupy, but if you're in the Pacific, you're in Bikini Atoll.
Yeah. There's a reason so many people came home from Vietnam with brown women. Or yellow women,
Wow.
I guess.
You spend a year over there, it's like you're like, well, can't be with who you. What's the old saying?
Love
Can't
the
be
one
with
you're
the one
with.
you love the one you're with. There you go.
Yeah. That's right. Anyway, we do have to. We start the show with 24 minutes in with our first topic, which is Matt's awful review of Clue, the movie.
Oh my God! When that came on, I actually stopped watching the stream.
I fell asleep earlier in the stream, so I didn't get it. So Sean will tell us the review Matt gave of what is a classic because of age and its quality, the classic movie Clue.
Well,
speaking of, 35 years yesterday was the premiere of Dirty Dancing. Just so that we're clear of ages of shit.
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
Mhm.
35 fucking years ago. Alf.
Why couldn't
Yeah.
I come on after Matt reviewed Falling Down?
Well, I mean, at least he got that one right.
Yeah. I love that movie.
Dude, we analyzed that movie to death the last time I was on your show.
Yeah, I love that movie. Yeah, it's a great movie.
It's a good movie.
So I'm saying, it's like, I was like, yes! I think they both loved it.
Yep. Matt hurt me with his first ever review, Tremors. I love it, Tremors. He gave it 2.
2 wikis? Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah. At least Sean, what do you give Big Trouble in Little China?
I think he gave it 4.
No, it was a 3.
Damn it.
No, hang on. I gotta look it up. Do you
That's
still
funny.
have that Matrix, Garrett?
He appreciates
If
some
I have that
80s
Matrix, I
schlock,
didn't
but
know I was
not
supposed
all.
to keep that Matrix.
Like, you need to sit him down and explain what was happening at the time. Like, okay, now remember, it's 1984. We're big fans of the Black. Eddie Murphy just came out. Yeah, he had just done 4 years of Saturday Night Live, so he's super popular right now. Nick Nolte's been doing great. So 48 Hours, it's a different time. There's going to be a lot of N-words, but Eddie Murphy is funny. We still love Nick Nolte, and watch.
Yeah. Yeah, he
That's
Big
how you
Trouble in
review
Little China
48
4.
Hours.
He's grown up totally in the I don't want to say woke period, but he was in the politically correct period. See, I have it. It's 2 phases. We transitioned from the 80s where you could pretty much say anything to the 90s. You got it's not woke culture yet, but it's politically correct.
Mhm.
You know, they started with the name changes. They actually made a movie called PCU, Politically
I
Correct
love that
University.
movie. Oh, I need to put that on my list. That is such a good movie.
And so this is like prehistoric wokeness creeping into society.
It's so early in careers that you have yet to Chris Farley, Dave Spade.
There you go. So it's also so early that the movie is actually mocking this culture.
Yeah.
You know,
It's so early. Farva's still fat.
Favreau's still fat. Yeah.
and that was my first exposure to Parliament Funkadelic.
Really?
But I think mine too. Yeah.
Oh,
After that, I was like, who are these guys?
P-Funk was used. So, Garrick's young. Like, stupid young. Jay's a couple years younger than me. I'm assuming, Neo, you're probably around the same age as Jay Fry.
It's closer to you.
Well, I'm old.
Are you an X or a millennial?
Gen X.
Okay. Because
Hey,
sometimes
I'm Gen X.
I remember the 80s. It's not a fog to me.
Okay, yeah. So Jay's like right on the cusp. He can go either way depending, but he's solidly X just in his mentality.
Yes.
Matt is solidly a millennial in his mentality. And I think that's the difference, is he does not understand anything about the Gen X experience.
Well, he's 34.
The Cold War was a big fucking deal. It's like if your memory only stretches into the 90s, it's hard to explain to people.
Oh, you're right, Sean. They both gave it a 4.
He never hid underneath a desk in his life.
It's not even that. It's like, you know how we have division today between Republicans and Democrats? I think I told you guys my theory is that the Cold War tended to tamp down a lot of the bullshit.
Yeah, because we had a literal existential threat.
It's like they were saying Democrats, the extremes, both parties tended to like. They didn't even want to acknowledge, you know, what we consider even extreme today. It's like AOC could not exist in the 1980s in the Democrat
Well,
Party.
communism was seen for what it is, as bad. Like, we're far too tolerant of that nonsense today.
Think about it. Bernie Sanders could not exist. I mean, to this day, it's a legacy of that he still lists himself as an independent because the Democrats didn't want to associate with him.
Right.
So Bernie Sanders, he was considered out of the mainstream. Well, he was just always a weird bird because people forget conveniently that until about 5 minutes ago he was pro-gun.
And pro borders.
Well, he did. He honeymooned in the 80s in Russia.
In the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
You can say it's worse. The Soviet Union. It was still the USSR.
Yeah.
Celebrating his wedding with his comrades.
Yeah, exactly. Like, red line's a good thing. Get the fuck out of here.
I think I saw a video where he actually referred to them as comrades or tovarish. It's like the Russian word for comrade.
Hey, I think it was comrade.
I was like, oh my God. How did this guy get elected?
Yeah, I have to remind people, like we're in a different time now. Like, you can't call them libtards because a lot of libtards, they were for Bernie, and when Bernie shit the bed, I still need to explain. I'm a magician, and I manipulate coins, and I still don't know how you can win 6 coin tosses in a row.
Well,
but
when you have the Clintons going, we have a body count. Remember that to the caucus organizers. Then yeah,
that was one of the greatest nights of the 2016 election. The night they robbed Bernie in, was it Nevada or Arizona?
Well, Bernie had no chance out here.
Don't you remember there was a near riot where they almost stormed the stage and like attacked Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and she had to like resign after that?
Well, that would have been Florida then, wouldn't it?
No. She was back then. She was in charge of the Donna Brazil. While working with Tim Kaine. Tim Kaine resigned. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was really in charge, while Donna Brazil was pretending to be in charge. And then after Donna Brazil left, after slipping a couple of email questions from CNN to Clinton, it was then Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And the reason they pulled, that's how Tim Kaine got the VP position, is because they pulled him from being the head of the DNC.
Well, it was either Nevada, Arizona, or New Mexico, one of the Southwest trio.
Oh, it was probably New Mexico then. They're a bunch of hippie commies.
Where they had a caucus, and Bernie won, like all the little caucuses, and then when they got together in the main room to like do the yays and nays, it was clear that Bernie had won when they said everybody who says Bernie say aye, and they take the voice vote, and whichever is louder is the one that they say is won.
Mm-hmm.
The Bernie people clearly won. I mean, it wasn't even close. They just, by acclamation, Hillary Clinton wins the caucus, and she gets all the delegates and all that. They started throwing chairs. Debbie Wasserman Schultz and them had to be evacuated by the cops.
Mm-hmm. This was 2 weeks earlier when it was the the Kansas, not the Kansas, the not New Hampshire, but one of the flyover states.
Iowa.
They were ties, and they had to do 6 coin tosses.
Yeah, and they all went to Clinton.
And each one went to Clinton. And I'm like, can't you just, if it's ties, one way, one the next way, one back and forth? Like it should just be one coin toss. You win that one, the next one goes to the other person. Then you coin toss for a third. 1, 3, and 5 should be coin tosses. Not 1 through 6 should be coin tosses.
Look, man, all I remember is that Bernie would win the votes, and then somehow Clinton would get the delegates. I don't know.
Well, because it's been corrupt the entire time.
Just don't use the R word, or we're going to get kicked off, and I get to blame you, Kerry Lake, for Crowder.
No. You can say anything you want about the 2016 election. I've never seen anyone bad over talking about 2016.
I still hear motherfuckers claiming hanging chads.
I mean, you don't see anybody screaming about that lady in Georgia who still claims she won.
Oh, yeah, she's never conceded, Stacey Abrams.
I mean, if you listen to her, she's like the governor in exile.
Mm-hmm. We never did get the clue. All right, one more time.
talk about Clue, because I actually shut it off because I was like, I don't want to hear Matt disparage this film.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so it was he overanalyzes some things, and I think that's been like throughout all of his reviews. He overanalyzes stuff
But that's
that
what happened with
everybody
Airplane, and
glosses
we
over.
discussed that already.
Oh yeah, he was
Christ.
like, he even in Jurassic Park, he was like, "What about the people, the employees on the island?" I'm like, no, there were no other employees on the island. There was a major storm system
Wait,
coming in.
Oh, I was gonna say, weren't they evacuated because they predicted a storm?
Yeah,
Oh.
there was a storm system coming in, so they got off the island. It was just going to be a skeleton crew. That was the Ned's was trying to get to that boat that had the rest of the crew on it. Yeah, but I can't super chat that because Blonde doesn't read my super chats anymore.
Really? Wow.
No. But so what was his over analysis like?
Okay, so and I guess this isn't horrible overanalysis from a Matt standpoint anyway. He just didn't care for the physical aspects of the comedy. Like he didn't care for them running room to room to room, which is
And stop shouting.
right. Well, and stop shouting. Well, the stop shouting
Okay.
thing is just a cheap
Now,
gag. But
Does
whatever.
Matt understand that this is an adaptation of what you would see in, say, Broadway plays and musicals?
No, he doesn't have
Slap-
context.
That
He
Slaps, like,
has-
it's
the
called
whole-
slapstick.
Right, but not only that, but the whole point of them running room to room to room is that this is a movie based on a board game where you
Right.
have to move from room to room to room in the
Right.
game. So that is the homage to the board game of going room to room to room. So he overanalyzed, but didn't get all the way to where that analysis should have taken
All right.
him.
Does he know enough context to know this is based on a Milton Bradley or Parker Brothers game? I forget who.
He knows it's based on a game, but he's never played the game, so he doesn't understand it.
Okay.
And
So Matt,
he got
that's
hung
not
up.
a big board game guy.
No, probably not.
No.
No, he gave it a 2 out of 5, so he gave it 2 wikis because he said it had some solid zingers. But then he took umbrage with the fact that no matter which ending you watched, and he also didn't understand that when this was released in theaters, different theaters got different endings. Not everybody saw every ending. There was one ending, and depending on what theater you went to, you got that ending and you didn't get the other 2. So when people were talking about this movie when it was in theaters, everybody was like, well, what do you think about that ending? And then people were confused because they saw different endings.
Slick fuckers. Then you'd have to watch 3 different movies.
Right. And you could never tell which one you were going to get.
That's I never knew that. That's actually a really cool.
I am gonna have to order me a DVD. It's got to be on the DVD.
Yeah, they did all 3 on the DVD.
Yeah, even if you watch it streaming, they show you all 3.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But if you went and saw it in a theater, you only got 1.
Hasbro, by the way.
Yeah,
It's a Hasbro.
Hasbro made it? Okay.
Yeah.
There's been so much consolidation. It's like...
Yeah. Yeah.
Black Magic says this weekend Skag pisses off the audience.
No,
He
he
really
did.
did.
He did great with his Falling Down review, but
Yeah. He does pretty good when he agrees with me. I mean, I'll give it that.
now here's the thing. I'm not a big fan of Clue, but I just knew that he's not going to get that movie.
No. And I was hopeful
I
that
just-
he just enjoyed the gags. I mean, I'd give this a soft 4. It's really like a 3.5 for me, and it's mostly just because it's a nostalgia movie for me. I mean, I saw it when I was 4 or 5, and I just fell in love with it, mostly because I recognized Christopher Lloyd. I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Well, the cast, you got to remember the context. At the time, though, the cast that they had were big names in Hollywood. They were not people, for the most part, that would be recognized maybe today. But at the
Right.
time, those guys, that was a pretty big name cast. Christopher Lloyd, everybody would know, just from Back to the Future.
Yeah, and Tim Curry.
I believe
John,
Clue was originally retro, not Milton Bradley. but my clue is by Hasbro.
You just don't see that kind of movie doesn't get made so much. Like there's a movie that's kind of in the same vein called Noises Off. Again, based off a Broadway play. So it's like it's not going to play like a normal movie.
Well, the closest thing we've had recently to something like Clue was Knives Out.
Yep.
And I wouldn't even say it's close. It's a mystery movie. That's really all they have in common.
Well, that brings up Matt's last complaint, is that he doesn't like the mixture of mystery and comedy, whereas this, I think he's mistaking the fact that it's not a mystery movie, it's a comedy movie that the premise is a mystery. Whereas something like Knives Out was a mystery movie that had some comedy in it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some contention in the chat about apparently Magoot has a 70s version that's Milton Bradley. Crow has Cluedo.
Wow.
Mine is Hasbro.
It is an intellectual property, so it is a fair chance that it was sold back and forth between companies.
Yeah, I mean, hold on, let's Google this. We got
all I know is if it's 2022, BlackRock has some kind of stake in it.
It says here it's owned by State Street. No, this is Hasbro. Clue from Scooby-Doo. Basically, I don't care what it is. I will watch anything with Howard Hessman in it.
I'm guessing that maybe it was licensed to have like those themed versions.
Yeah, possibly.
Well, so yeah, it's Clue in North America, but it was Cluedo in the UK and basically the rest of the world. And it was actually invented in the UK. So it was Cluedo first, and then it was probably Milton Bradley, I think, that licensed it here in North America, and they're the ones who blew it up over here in the States.
Oh.
Yeah, you got to remember that, like, before everybody had, like, video game consoles in their house, that's what people had, board games.
Well, and you still keep board games down here for hurricanes when the power goes out, because guess what? Your battery ain't gonna last forever, and those kids are gonna need something to do once they can't watch whatever the fuck it is kids watch nowadays.
I had a version of Clue that you played with a VHS.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember that type of game. Yeah.
So they've got Clue, Scooby-Doo, Clue, The Office, Harry Potter, Clue.
Oh God.
Dungeons and Dragons, Clue.
I thought you were gonna say next like Twilight, Clue.
Bob's Burgers, Clue.
There's got to be a Simpsons version. There was Simpsons everything in the late 80s and early 90s.
It was Colonel Mustard in the observatory with Bart Simpson's shorts.
Simpsons has to be the longest running show ever.
It should.
35
actually,
longest running spin-off as well.
Well, okay, longest running animated series, but I think the longest running series period, I think, is Doctor Who. I could be wrong.
Can't be.
No, I think it's Law and Order.
General Hospital. General Hospital started off as...
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of soap operas, yes.
There's a Downton Abbey version, a Bridgerton version.
Yeah.
I don't get Bridgerton.
Disney Villains version.
It's like Bridgerton to me is like woke Downton Abbey.
That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's fucking retarded.
Dude,
my wife watched it for a little
Downton
while.
Abbey is insidious, okay? One day, it's like fucking 2 a.m. and I can't sleep. And I'm like, I've seen all this shit. What is... There's got to be something. And I was like, Downton Abbey. And I just knew it as something that chicks watch.
Mm-hmm.
So I put it on. Before you know it, it's fucking... The sun is coming up, and I'm binging the shit out of this episode after episode. I didn't even sleep.
That's how I started with Modern Family.
It's like I'm seeing, and there's like no action in this thing. It's just literally family drama. You know.
Isn't McGonagall in it?
Yeah, Maggie.
Maggie Smith.
Smith. Thank you.
Maggie Smith? Maggie? No.
But it's
Maggie
insidious.
Grace.
You start giving a shit. You know what it is? It's because it's like the show does like time skips, so it's like intergenerational. So you start seeing the kids grow up and stuff, and you start caring. That's the secret. So that's
you call
that's how
her
the old
Madonna.
That's how the old Viking sagas were. People think that they're like tales of heroic warriors. Most Viking sagas is just tales about families.
Boo.
You know,
Maynard
Jay-
Crowe says they got a Clueless version of Clue where Mr. Body was gagged with a spoon.
Boo.
Clueless. Oh boy.
Okay, quality.
I'll explain it. I'll explain to you later, Garrett.
It's quality bad.
You know what's sad? That there's probably a collector out there who has like all these different versions.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
they're always
Mint in the box.
And that guy's name is Az.
Welcome to my parlor. Enjoy my collections of Clue. I enjoyed it because they weren't stars. It was like an entire film with supporting actors. Like I love Christopher Lloyd, but he's more of a supporting actor than the star.
Did you
Tim-
notice how a lot of those actors back then, a lot more of them were classically trained?
Martin
Like-
Mull, even Michael McKean.
Which Martin Mull doesn't have much movie acting credits. He has a lot of TV series credits.
Martin Mull was the bailiff in that courtroom.
That's
series,
Richard
wasn't
Mull.
it? Oh, Richard Mull.
Martin Mull was.
Yeah, exactly. He was in a lot of things, but
He was in
memorable.
everything.
Yeah, he was, especially in the late 70s and early 80s. He was in everything.
So he was basically Ron Howard's brother.
Yeah, Clint Howard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude,
except,
look at his
more-
IMDb.
No, we know. We've talked about it many times before. Yeah, Clint Howard may be the workingest man in Hollywood.
And I'm not talking shitty movies either. It's like movies. Oh yeah, he was in that.
But he's literally in it for like bit parts. Martin Mull was in stuff as a supporting actor, like a secondary.
I could name like 10. I could name like 10 shows, like Roseanne. He was in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Like I've seen him in tons of things. I just can't give you anything from it.
He's like Ned Beatty.
He's
He's like the poor man's Ned Beatty.
Ned Beatty's the poor man's Warren Beatty, though. So we're in discount hut at this point.
Perfect one. You know the guy that played the villain in Gina Carano's flick that she did? The
guy who's on Timcast
Terror on
all
the
time?
Prairie?
Is it Nick Cersei? Is that who we're talking
yeah.
about?
Dude, how many things has he been in?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
He was great in Terror on the Prairie, though.
He was.
Yeah.
It was a good movie.
Shape of Water, Art and Justified. Oh, there's so many people like that. One of my favorites is actually he's playing Grandpa Munster in the new Munsters movie. Is the guy just shows up at like the weirdest places, and he looks like a really good version of Grandpa Munster. And it's Roebuck, Daniel Roebuck. He was one of the sidekicks to Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive and U.S. Marshals.
Okay.
He was a chubbier one.
Yeah.
And he's in everything at some point.
When you say that, it's a process of elimination. Like, one of them was a black woman, so it's not her you're talking about.
Yeah, it's not Joe Pantoliano.
Exactly. So it's like, just leave that other guy.
Yeah. Like, he's usually like a Fed, too. Like he was a Fed in Final Destination. Like Agent Johnson.
Franchise just fell off the map.
There was a fifth one that snuck in. That
In
that most
Hollywood,
people-
well, they'll just make sequels till they die. That thing just stopped.
yeah. Oh, have you seen the trilogy of I Know What You Did Last Summer?
I'll always know what you did last summer.
No, that was a sequel. They killed it. They killed it dead with the third one. It goes from all the main character that survived the first one were in the second one. And then, they technically survived the second one. And the third one is in Colorado, completely different people, and it's a fucking ghost.
You know what else did that? Home Alone.
There's a third. Oh, God. There's got to be a fourth if there's a third.
You know what else?
There
Just
was a
totally
fourth, but it
ignored
was made for
continuity. Halloween 3, season of the Witch.
No, that doesn't count.
Highlander 2. The Highlander, was it 2 or 3 where they were turned them into aliens?
That's two.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That
I remember
doesn't exist.
Highlander and Highlander 3. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Highlander 2 does not exist.
The film that shall not be named.
Even though Michael Ironside is so good as a villain, I love him as a villain. The only thing he does better as a villain is when he's the teacher in Starship Troopers,
Top
waving
Gun.
around his little stub.
Played the same role in
yeah.
Top Gun.
He's in the new Top Gun?
No, the old one.
He was in the first Top Gun as a flight instructor
Right.
at Miramar.
I don't
Alongside,
remember.
who was the other guy? The other teacher?
Tom Skerritt was like
Tom
the
Skerritt.
lead guy. Yeah. Viper.
I don't remember Michael Ironside in Top Gun. I'll have to watch it again.
He was like the wingman. It was like, get your butts above the hard deck. Same thing, just it's same role he always plays as a hard ass military instructor.
He's McGrude says Highlander 2, there should have been only one. That hurts on like 6 different levels, man. No, with as far as Halloween goes, it was John Carpenter had the idea of making a Halloween anthology. And he had planned to do a sequel to Halloween, and it was going to be Halloween 2, Season of the Witch. But Halloween came out, and they instantly called for a second one. They're like, you want a third? You'll do our second. And so he put out a second Halloween that literally took off right from the end of the first one. And that was awful.
I will say this about Matt. He definitely appreciates the John Carpenter films.
Yeah, they're just so good. You could argue for hours about the ending of the thing.
He
Yeah,
gets
but
he gets the John Carpenter stuff.
He hasn't done Reanimator yet.
Have they done?
I don't
They
think
Live?
he'll get reanimated. Yes, they did.
John-
They Live.
John Carpenter did Christine, right?
No, Christina's.
That's Stephen King.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about.
Did he direct it? I don't think he did. Let me check.
No.
What about Cujo?
Still no.
See that those are. I don't know if Matt's done a lot of horror. Has he done
Oh,
any-
it was directed by John Carpenter.
I thought so.
Yeah, it was. What about Cujo?
Damn, I
Has
should
Matt,
have known that because there's a
has Matt
story.
reviewed a lot of horror? Because that
I
was
would-
huge back in the 80s.
I wouldn't think he's seen a lot of horror. He hasn't seen a lot of movies, period.
There's a story about Adriana Paul, who's sisters of Adrian Paul, the Highlander,
Okay,
from
so-
the TV show.
That's
Well,
the thing.
she's got a twin sister.
Contrary to the time, the Highlander TV show didn't suck.
No, it was good.
I liked it. Yeah,
I liked it.
yeah.
It
But
was a little
she's
beefcakey, but it was pretty good.
that was the draw.
We're all
But
gay.
Alexandria Paul has. First off, Alexandria Paul went to my high school prom, not mine, the one the year before mine, with a kid who had cancer. She's one of the first celebrities to go to a prom, but she's got a twin sister, and her twin sister is not an actor. And one day, her sister was on set, and she dressed her sister up as her character. And John Carpenter goes to one of the guys and goes, "What the hell happened to her? She can't act." So I should have known it was John Carpenter. But she was also the Virgin Connie Swain. For those of you who are Dragnet fans.
Thank God it's Friday.
But she's also in Spy Hard, which was a nice break away from Clue. I mean, Spy Hard was in the 90s, but the 80s is riddled with Mel Brooks comedies that are classic.
Spaceballs.
Yeah, they're classic and they're funny and they're very much their own genre of Mel Brooks films.
And I'm worried that Matt is not going to like them at all. He might get Spaceballs because he likes Star Wars, but I might take Blazing Saddles off on my list because of how lowly he rated Clue.
Blazing Saddles, he may not understand. First of all,
they did Blazing Saddles.
No, they didn't.
Pretty sure they did. Pretty sure
I would remember if they did.
Now, I actually saw recently a compilation of reactions of modern YouTubers to Blazing Saddles. It is hilarious.
Is it bad? Like offensive bad? Like, oh my God.
Well, they're just shocked. They're like they can't comprehend an era when this type of movie could be made. They're like, they made this in Hollywood?
Oh, and they should watch a Dean Martin roast. Just the Don Rickles segment.
You gotta understand, there is now a couple of generations that have grown up like in the woke era. They don't remember anything about the time before. Like
they don't know anything.
Like they can't even comprehend of that film existing.
And what a crime it is.
Like Don Rickles tells the story of Frank Sinatra on a speedboat with Sammy Davis Jr. On jet skis. And he says, Frank, what are you doing? And Frank shouts back, baiting for gators.
We live in an era where they put a warning at the beginning of Gone with the Wind.
That was not a controversial movie when it was made in the slightest. And
it wasn't a controversial movie fucking 10 years ago. It's just,
it shouldn't be a controversial movie.
You have to sit through a fucking warning to watch Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, what horse shit.
What's the warning?
This was made. Depictions of slavery and African American stereotypes. I think.
Just imagine, again, drawing on the Vikings as an example. They fucking killed and robbed monasteries. Imagine putting a warning before. Oh, we're depicting Scandinavians.
No. It's a monastery. That's practically Christianity. It's fine. Now, if you showed Robin Hood with the English marching through and destroying
Muslims,
destroying the Moors.
The new Robin Hood series that they're gonna put out.
Oh, fuck all this.
Has a black female as Robin Hood.
That's the BBC, if I'm not mistaken.
As Robin Hood?
Yes.
God.
Yeah, and that's the BBC. They're doing it to themselves.
Now, to be fair, I think they've reimagined it into a modern tale, so it's like Robin in the Hood or something. I don't know. It's just so retarded.
Oh, good Lord.
But they did this. It wasn't the BBC. I think it was Channel 4. They had a series about Anne Boleyn, the wife, one of the wives that King Henry beheaded, like in the 1600s, and they had her played by a black woman.
Yeah.
And like, this is a historical figure who we know what she looked like because there's paintings of her. But for some reason, this was thought to be a good idea.
Well, America, we loved Henry so much, we kept his foot.
Seriously? We have Henry VIII's foot?
That's our measurement.
That's our measurement system. It's Henry VIII's foot.
That's what the empirical measurement system is based off of.
Yeah. Literally
empirical. You had it right.
Yeah. Yeah, imperial too. Well, he was just a king.
He had a really big foot.
Do you have a size 13? That's more than a Henry VIII's foot.
Well, towards the end of his life, he was a big man. We have paintings of him too.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
they still have his suit
They
of
got
armor
bigger.
from when he would compete in tournaments and stuff, and it's fucking huge.
Oh yeah, he used to play tennis, or a primitive form of it.
Badminton.
Nah, they used to play tennis like in a room. It wasn't
Squash.
badminton. Yeah,
That sounds more like racquetball.
I
No,
mean
it
they
was-
had
it was
the net,
tennis.
and you hit the ball was like a leather sack or something. So it's not like modern tennis balls, but you could hit the ball off of the sidewalls and stuff. So it was like tennis, but in a room.
Squash.
It's more like tennis, but yeah, it had squash like elements.
Okay.
I don't even know what squash is.
Racquetball
It's
with a
the-
lame ball and a bigger racket.
It's like if you were a wasp and you work in like a big at a hedge fund in the Northeast, you play squash.
I'm white, but I'm poor white.
No.
It's that-
This is
It's that uppity rich white people sport that they play
rich
at the gym.
waspy New Englander kind of
Yeah,
stuff. It's like their handball.
yeah.
It's like, hey Chad, let's play some squash.
Good content. All right, so we're pulling. All right, so did you ever find out if Blazing Saddles had?
Yeah,
Bedouin?
I went back through and it is not there, which I could have sworn they did because Matt's going to absolutely fucking love Blazing Saddles.
So-
I'm kind of worried after what I just witnessed with Clue.
So are you
I think
pulling
he's-
Blazing Saddles?
I'm probably going to replace it with Spaceballs because it's Star Wars and he understands Star Wars. So better chance.
Well, he did not. He did not like Young Frankenstein. So Mel Brooks.
We
can
ain't
go either
found
way.
shit.
I wonder what Matt would make of the Running Man.
That's a good question.
Yeah. I mean, like,
Well,
I mean,
okay,
it's not as good as the what's the one where he went to Mars? Total Recall, but it's not bad. I rate that one somewhere in the middle. It's not one of Arnold's worst.
I think that he's going to have a problem with how cheesy the villains are. And it's going to
But-
depend on whether he ever played Smash TV in an arcade as a kid.
But it's got Jesse Ventura in it, which he loved in Predator.
Right.
And Jesse Ventura kind of plays the same sort of role.
But he's not going to he's not going to understand the game show host aspect of Richard Dawkins or Dawson. Richard Dawson. Yeah. Which in the
Yeah, he
time
won't-
it was a
You won't
big
know who he
deal.
is in context, yeah.
there's no God. No, not you. The other guy. I think he would enjoy.
Because we remember when that movie came out, reality TV was kind of newish.
I don't think it even existed. That Running Man was what, 87?
No.
Maybe even before?
I
It's
think
gotta
they had The Real World by then, didn't they, on MTV?
No, that started in like 90, 91.
91.
Yeah, Running
I would
Man
say.
was 87.
Because Real World is like in seasons, you can't even put a number on it.
Well, I can tell you when it died was, and it killed MTV when it did this, was season 2 of the Real World, which was in 1992, I believe.
Real World, the first one was 92.
Okay,
Original
so the
series
second
was
season
92.
was 93. And that's when MTV died.
Yeah.
I had a crush on Julie from the New Orleans one.
I had a crush on Kennedy.
Mr.
I still
Kennedy?
do.
Because, like, kids would watch MTV in the 80s, and then it just went away. You didn't hear about it in the 90s. It's like it became just reality shows.
Yeah, MTV
Mhm.
died before the internet existed, which is amazing to me.
Video killed the radio star and then itself.
Because then they had the derivative shows of Real World, like Real World Road Rules, and it's
Real World versus Road Rules. And
crazy.
Well, and I did like the original remote control.
Then
That
they
was actually pretty good.
tried to save themselves by having that, like, you know, that afternoon video show with like Carson Daly and stuff. But I don't know.
Yeah, TRL.
Didn't work.
Total Request Live. But that's when they were dying because they weren't innovating anymore, especially along the music scene, and that's what, kind of did them in.
I think Matt would prefer Total Recall to Running Man because of the.
Well, they reviewed Total Recall, I think.
Yeah, you liked
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But because of there is like the question of the fade to white at the end, whether or not he got lobotomized. So there is more to talk about with that than just the, leading to post-apocalyptic whatever the fuck was happening with Running Man.
Well,
and
I think it's going to come down to whether he gets and understands and appreciates the cheese of Running Man. Like how cheesy it is, like intentionally cheesy it is. And that can go either way. I could see if he gets it in the right mood, he'll appreciate it.
Now,
he may not like it, but he'll appreciate it.
A movie in that vein that he probably would probably be RoboCop. The original RoboCop. No,
he did not like it.
Wow.
Which is funny because we're literally sitting on $5 a gallon gas, and we had
he didn't
Detroit go on strike.
He don't like the little bullshit commercials like I'd buy that for $1.
He did like that part, but he just God damn it.
Well, I actually kind of talked to him about it, and I described the remake that they made and the different takes that they took with it. And the way he was responding to my description, it sounded like he would probably like the new one more.
Yeah, that would be something he'd do.
Well, the theme is more with his anti-war stance, which they kind of jammed into that movie for some reason. It's her, instead of like focusing on the OCP plot to remake Detroit, they turned it into like Blackwater, where they're selling weapons to the military and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's just disconnects at different levels. Like if you asked a millennial who would win in a fight, Freddy versus or Jason versus Mike Myers, they would say Mike Myers. Because the only thing that's in relative, like in the last 10 years, there's been 3 Mike Myers movies and 1 Jason movie. And Mike Myers is half a foot taller than Jason.
Mike Myers he has 2 superpowers, essentially. To always be in the right place at the right time, despite the fact that he doesn't run for shit. He never moves at anything more than a brisk walk, yet somehow he's everywhere that he needs to be.
Yeah, around an entire town.
Number 2 is that no matter what you do, the fucker just won't die.
Mm-hmm. And he magically learned how to drive while in an insane asylum for a decade. But they don't understand that in the previous generation, because there is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, and then there's 2 after that in the last decade. But Jason only got the 1 remake where he fought Jared Padalecki.
Well, here's the thing. There was a range of those guys. We would always talk about in the 80s who would beat who. But the guy that was pretty cool because he really didn't have any superpowers was the guy from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
But he has it's Toby Hooper's baby, but he has the worst continuity out of anybody.
It's like all he is, he's just a guy with a chainsaw with a fucked up face.
Yeah. So with the most powers is Jason. He is a undead revenant that.
Well, that's the thing. Same power. That's what a revenant. One of their powers is to always be where they need to be. That's what the Crow. That's what the Crow is. And remember the movie The Crow?
Yeah, but
he's a revenant too.
Yeah, but he's not to millennials. The only movie they have is the remake of Platinum Dunes, Jason.
Oh, there's one that Matt has to review, The Crow.
Yeah. So that's all he. I have a story about that in a second. So that's all he has is the original, or not the original, the remakes of Mike Myers, Freddy as a pedophile, and
that would work. That would work
the new Leatherface, who is a good-looking, charming kid, because they made a one called Leatherface recently.
The remakes that they made were pretty good. You saw the one with Lee Ermey in it?
Those were prequels.
Yeah, those actually I thought came off well. I was expecting them to suck, but
yeah. But then after that was Leatherface, which is like a Scandinavian or Norwegian or something in their movie, and it's another prequel before all of the other prequels, because Leatherface is just a kid at the time. So it runs the gamut. But if you were to talk to a kid today and ask him, Jason versus Mike Myers, they would say Mike Myers, because of the retconning that has been done in the last.
Don't forget, we actually did get a Jason versus Freddy movie.
Yeah. Oh, I remember it well. That hockey player was pissed about something. Or that goalie was pissed about something. Yeah, I really enjoyed it for what it was, even though they had to create some stupid shit in there. But I loved it, and I like the guy who actually played Leatherface in the prequels. I don't like a prequel with horror.
Now that you mentioned Jared Padalecki, he was in another bad remake of a horror movie. He was in the
House
Fog.
of Wax. No.
Dude, he was in the Fog in the remake.
No, that was Tom Welling. Superman.
You're right.
Yeah. No, he was in House of Wax, and he was in still both better movies than My Bloody Valentine. Sorry, Dean.
The Fog was another John Carpenter movie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember liking the movie. I just don't remember much about it, other than it was like the spirits of these dead smugglers or pirates.
Yeah.
And they would come in the fog and kill everybody in this town. Don't know why. So that's one of those movies I did see when I was a kid, and I never saw it again.
So do you have a list that you would give Matt Neo? Like, what's on your list?
I've never sat down and make a list, but I just mentioned one that probably be on there: The Crow, The Terminator. Because
they did The Terminator, didn't they?
They did the Terminator.
I think they did Terminator 2 as well.
All right.
Hang on, let me find it. Where's Terminator?
Yeah, it was early on.
Did they do Terminator 2?
Terminator.
I think they did.
Blonde gave it. They both gave it 4. The Terminator.
I think it was Aliens, wasn't it? Alien and Aliens.
Alien. They both gave a 4. I don't think Aliens is on here. Let me.
Well, I know they recently did a sequel.
See, I would throw Matt curveballs. I would throw Matt curveballs like what the hell was that? Something bizarre, like an animation, like Transformers the movie that traumatized children for like the first time.
There's an interview with Orson Welles where he goes, this planet toy is fights a group of toys, and they go at it, and this one toy dies. Who is the leader?
Dude,
he refers to everything as a toy the entire time.
But people forget it was a Saturday. Well, it was a television show literally created to sell toys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That G.I. Joe. That was their only reason for existing, to sell toys.
Well,
And then
Hasbro.
they made this movie, and because of their capitalistic greed, they actually accidentally created a work of art, because they wanted to sell new toys, so they decided to kill off their entire Generation 1 line of toys, so they could introduce new ones. So in the course of that, you have children exposed for the first time to themes of like death and mortality. All of a sudden, like, think about it. You watch 2 or 3 seasons of this show, where these two sides are supposedly at war, but no one ever gets killed. Then in the first 20 minutes of this show, just about every character you know and love dies gruesomely in a conflict, and kids are like crying.
Did you really have to rip Bumblebee apart?
No. Bumblebee was one of the few survivors. But think about Optimus Prime gets killed in the first 15 minutes of the film.
They killed the shit out of him. Nice toy gets killed.
There were kids crying in the theater, traumatized. They didn't go to school for a week.
I was a He-Man guy myself for as far as the toys go. Like I had all of the He-Man.
Did you see the abomination that Kevin Smith made of He-Man?
Half of it.
I didn't even see one episode.
I watched the first half. There's like six episodes, and then there's a second.
First of all, it shouldn't have been titled He-Man. It should have been titled Tila, whatever her name was.
Yeah, she could have been She-Man. That's what it was. She replacing a he.
I'm like, wait a minute. Didn't they make a female version of He-Man? Why did they have to do this? They could have just made She-Ra.
Which, honestly, back in the 80s when those were cartoons, She-Ra was the better cartoon with the better villain.
Well, so I'm saying, why didn't
she had the better villains, yeah.
Why didn't Kevin Smith just make She-Ra if you had to have a strong female character?
Because it's about
He-Man.
One of the core tenets of Hollywood today, and you see this in Marvel, you see this in Star Wars, you see this in everything. They have to destroy and emasculate and bring down a male hero to supposedly lift up a female one. That's why.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't
it's
just
not the
make
first time
She-Ra.
they killed off. Yeah, I mean, they killed off Optimus Prime in Transformers to bring him back, just because sometimes you don't want to write the character because you're a dick.
Well, I mean, they had She-Ra.
They could have. They just don't.
It was like, no, even with Marvel, where they were trying to shoehorn all those female, like, hello, they had Black Widow in the original Avengers cast there. Why did they just make Black Widow the movie? They waited till after she was killed off before they gave her a movie. No, they had to push Captain Marvel, a character nobody wanted or cared about.
Well, did you see that I just watched Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. They even replaced Brie Larson as Captain Marvel in that movie.
Well, they did the same thing with it was because of the fluctuating timelines. They also replaced Captain America.
Well, what they're going to do is, I guess they figured it out that people don't like her. So the next Captain Marvel movie is going to be The Marvels, and it's going to feature multiple Captain Marvels from all the multiverse. Exactly.
I enjoyed the hell out of the three Spider-Man together.
I still have to.
Well, think about it. That wasn't made. That's not a Disney property. That's Sony.
Yeah.
They're not.
Oh God. Fire away, Cook calls He-Man gay, and later says He-Man would sneak off with Fisto. It hurts my soul. So I watched whatever early '90s. I watched The Crow, and I thought it took place in California.
No, it didn't in Detroit.
Yeah. And it does take place in Detroit. I lived in Detroit at the time, and I am an experienced Devil's Night
participant.
On occasion. Survivor is what I was actually looking for. And I just assumed, because that's one of my few experiences with Halloweens that aren't horror movies like Halloween, is that all cities burnt down their drug houses.
Oh, you thought that was just normal?
I just thought it was normal. I thought it was a California movie, first off.
Think about it. I lived in a place that had over 2,000 murders a year, and even we would have thought that was weird. Why would you burn down your city?
Well, yeah, but
the worst thing that happened to you on Halloween was you got eggs thrown at you and you might have got jumped. But they didn't burn the buildings down.
But your crackheads live in the apartment across the hall. That's way different than abandoned structures in a city that often burn down like entire blocks because the fires would get out of control.
No,
But
they'd burn the buildings in New York, but it would be during riots. It wouldn't be like for Halloween.
They've attempted to rehab it over the years, and it has never worked out. But they wanted to combat Devil's Night with Angel's Night, and that just turned into the people in the Angel Knights vests robbing people on Halloween, or the night before Halloween. Like it never got off the ground, no matter how. And if there's a crackhead in your neighborhood and they start robbing your houses, you fucking burn that fucker to the ground.
It's like a remedy.
That was the remedy in Detroit.
Believe it or not, they actually there was a bunch of riots last year in South Africa where they actually took that approach. You know, people don't realize this. It's not just white and black in South Africa. There is a large contingent of Indians.
Yeah.
And I guess the Indians got tired of South African blacks robbing and preying on their neighborhoods. So there was some kind of widespread rioting. And then they formed these security companies. Because in South Africa, you can't depend on the police. So the local people have to pay security companies to guard their neighborhoods. And then I guess that is the core. They started forming these militias. And wherever there was a shanty town near where they lived, they just went in and burned them out. And that was their rationale. It's like, okay, so we don't want them around us. They went in and they literally burned the place out. It's like, if you were in there or not, they didn't care.
Sounds like some Blackwater shit.
There's like video of this crap. You should see it. It's like people celebrating as they burn out shanty towns. It's like, you would assume you hear South Africa and black shanty towns being burned down. Your immediate thought is, oh, these crazy Dutch Afrikaners. But no, you see like mobs of rioting Indians in like bulletproof vests and carrying rifles and shit. Torching the places.
The new Top Gun just outgrossed Avengers Infinity War.
Dude, they're in 5th place now, right?
Yeah, so they beat out 6th place, which was Titanic, and now they've beat out 5th place, which was Infinity War.
Which means they also had to pass Black Panther.
I'll put a pass on Black Panther. I don't know how you're going to make one with your star dead.
They did the stupidest thing you could do. Instead of recasting the guy, they've decided to make the movie to like a memorial to the actor Chadwick Boseman, who even Chadwick Boseman, his own family, is saying you'd have thought this is stupid, just recast the role.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a Black Panther movie with no Black Panther in it.
Well, no, they'll make Black Panther a chick.
Well, that's it. They're making it his little sister, which makes no sense at all.
The most insufferable character in the entire fucking movie.
What are those?
I just don't see 100. I don't even if she's 100 pounds. If you put a rock in her pocket,
right? And I'm
kicking the shit out of supervillains. I
like,
just don't see it.
If they let the gal who played the general take over the role of Black Panther, I would support it, because there's no reason that Black Panther couldn't be a woman. That's
Denai Guerrera.
Right.
Well, it has it's the lineage.
Mm-hmm.
The
Royal
Black Panther
family,
is royal family.
Oh, that's right. You have to be from the royal family to survive eating the herb. Yeah.
But I liked her. Like when the Scarlet Witch comes out and starts fucking everything up, she's like, "Why was she in there?"
That's the other thing that Marvel did. In their zeal to make strong female character, they turned the Scarlet Witch into a genocidal maniac.
Well, she is, so that's fine. Next, DC is going to do that with Ezra Miller.
In some respects, you could say she's in some ways worse than Thanos, at least in her motivations.
Yeah, but
Thanos,
they
in his warped way, thought he was doing good.
Scarlet Witch is powerful, but she's not all powerful.
Well, they exaggerated that again. Got to have the strong female character.
Yeah.
Well,
like she would be taken out by the Punisher Easy as
She
pie.
is-
She's an independent woman.
She is the Avengers version of Dark Phoenix from the
Marvel.
X-Men.
It's still Marvel.
Well, it's still Marvel, but what I'm saying is that she's the Avenger version of Phoenix, Jean Grey, from the X-Men side.
But she's not, though. The whole time, Jean Grey is a Class 5 mutant. Charles fucks with her and brings her down to a Class 3 by locking Phoenix in a cage. She is, for all intents and purposes, a ticking time bomb her entire life.
Which is, again, another franchise that, because it was not managed by Disney, produced the greatest superhero film of all time.
Logan?
I'm sorry, I don't know what this has to do with Howard the Duck.
Dude,
DuckTales.
Logan, it transcends superhero movies, because even if you had never seen a superhero movie before, you could watch that movie and think it was awesome. Because in reality, it was more like a Western. And they'll even tell you in the movie, they're forcing the theme on you, the whole thing with Shane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I thought that was the greatest superhero film I ever saw. And
Same.
it's ironic
Same.
because it had the least of the over-the-top special effects and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Showing you this guy, what happens to a superhero at the end of his life, you know? Charles Xavier was had Alzheimer's and was a ticking time bomb. Wolverine was getting killed by the very things that gave him super abilities, the titanium or adamantium skeleton. You had a supervillain corporation that kind of reminded me of BlackRock. They essentially took over the world by introducing some kind of ingredient into the food supply, and quietly, no more mutants appeared. I was like, that's brilliant. That's exactly how it would happen in our world in 2022. Like, BlackRock would gain an interest in some big ag company. They put some ingredient. Exactly. They put some ingredient in the food that would sterilize everybody.
And the FDA would approve it and all that good shit. Oh, yeah.
And you wouldn't see a big superhero battle. It was just one day, whatever they wanted would just slowly happen.
Soylent Green isn't people.
Eat the bugs.
Fucking guy, man. Back when Beast wasn't blue and hairy. Yeah, that's a...
We need an actual superhero, considering we've got an actual Bond villain in the IMF.
Dude, tell me that guy does not have a white cat at home somewhere.
Oh, dude, totally. You know he's got a white cat. He has to.
White Persian cat. It's just...
Well, we talk about him, but in reality, Bill Gates is doing more damage than he is.
I don't think Bill Gates is...
Bill Gates
on
just
this
bought
guy's
Jeff
level.
Manchin's
No.
vote for
Klaus
climate.
Schwab Klaus Schwab is just clearly number one, and Bill Gates is probably number three.
It's like Bill
Number
Gates
two.
is like the guy in Casino Royale who you
Mhm.
find out that he's got a guy on top of him.
No, Bill Gates is the one funding the remote controlled birth control. He's buying up farm. He's the single largest independent farm owner.
But that's so overblown. He's private. He's still dwarfed by megacorps in farmland.
True.
like-
But
it's a
I
drop
said
in the
single. I said single independent landowner or farm landowner. He's the one who talked Manchin into agreeing with
I know,
all this bullshit.
He says, I've lobbied Manchin into doing it. I'm sure he influenced him, yes.
Yeah, I mean these are.
But the thing
evil
is,
people.
Manchin is an idiot. If you really think about what he sold out for, he's going to get fucked. Because they just promised him that they'd give the leases. They didn't promise him that they'd vote for the drilling permits, which that vote is coming like 2 weeks from now, and I don't think they're going to give him dick.
I think Manchin's looking to get out.
I think he got rolled and doesn't even know it.
Beyond Meat is made of mutant kids. No, that's still meat. That would still be meat, and it can't be. It's beyond meat.
Well, first, see, the thing is, I thought it was bad enough when they were pushing the artificial meat. See, I might see myself eating that. I don't just make it taste good, but I don't care what you do to the books. I'm not down with eat the books.
I watched this girl on. She has a adventure channel. Her name's Little Red Heidi Hood. Cute redhead. Often in a bikini because she does a lot of fishing and stuff. But she was meal prepping with chickpeas and this faux meat, and she grilled up like 3 pounds of faux burger or whatever you want to call it, and she's talking to the like her GoPro while she's doing it, and like 15 minutes in, she's like, "So this isn't brown. I guess we just get it hot." And she makes it, and she starts separating it, and she tastes it, and she goes, "Oh, I hate to throw this away, but this is awful, guys." Like, she's like, this is truly terrible. And I've seen her eat everything from the sea, and not just the pretty stuff. Like, she did sand ticks once. She boiled like these mini she made a clam stew out of like mini clams. She's eaten some fairly nasty stuff for a white girl, and she couldn't do the Beyond Meat.
I just want to know who was the first person to look at a lobster and say, "I want to eat that."
Well, I mean, think about beyond that. Like you've got eggs and stuff.
You're
like,
talking to a coon ass that eats crawfish all the time, so
you see people eat weird shit like on occasion, or you see an animal eat something, and you're like, "Well, I could probably eat that too." So you end up like you see a lizard eat an egg, you try an egg. But I want to know, like, baking. How we got to baking. Like, we took wheat, we beat the shit out of it until it was powder, and then we added an egg. And then at some point, we beat the shit out of a sugar cane to add flavor to.
For that matter, where did they come up with beer?
Yeah, where did they come up with alcohol?
Anything fermented is whew.
Because there's 2 universals throughout the world almost. Well, I should say new universals. Is that every culture independently comes up with bread and beer.
Well, yeah, because everyone has... no one comes up with the aqueduct, so they needed something to cover the shit in the water.
Bread and beer are very closely connected. So the yeast that's used to make bread can also be used to make beer. So that's one of the reasons why.
I've eaten live octopus. It's they wrap them in 2 chopsticks, and it's tiny little octopi. But like maybe 20 minutes after we did that, because I was on a Korean martial arts team that had won in Pan American Games, and somebody at another table half-ass chickened out and swallowed too early, and it climbed back up his throat. He almost, like, it evacuated itself as he was nearly choking to death while he was getting Heimlicked. If I would have known that was a possibility,
hard pass.
I'm like, holy shit!
You gotta chew your food. There's a reason.
Yeah. So like, where did they come up with wheat? Like there's so many things that are like so weird. Like how we eventually got to a fucking pancake. Like what started getting mixed where that this kind of shit happened? And I watch street foods where they'll eat all sorts of weird shit. Like there's a channel I always talk about called Dancing Bacon, and they'll eat some of the weirdest concoctions like I've ever seen. But I like a scorpion or something. Like, fry off those fucking hairs first.
I always wonder, like I got into, I don't know, not a month ago, but like maybe a few weeks ago, just looking up pre-Columbian contact Indian cultures, because there were like Indian nations or sort of proto-nations.
Yeah.
Before Columbus came here. And something that seems common among them is that they would mark important like treaties and agreements by smoking a pipe.
Which is another thing you have to question.
And I'm like, exactly. Who the fuck said, I'm going to make this long-ass wooden tube with a bowl at one end, and I'm just going to throw random plants in there and smoke them and see what effects they have on me.
All right, I get jerky. Jerky is a series of shitty events that happened in like the Sahara. Like you have a haunch of meat and you get chased up a tree and you end up finally the predator that was chasing you leaves and you run away and you forget your meat, and eventually sometime in the future you get chased up that same tree and you find that piece of meat and it has been dried out in the sun for 6 months. Oh, I didn't die.
That's why people eat mushrooms today. It's a legacy of thousands of people dying over the centuries.
Yeah.
Oh, you could eat this one, but not that one.
Now, Maynard says wine, he believes, was invented because humans saw squirrels and birds acting drunk after eating rotten fruit. So that, with a little bit of investigation, I guess, is a thing, but we still have to explain vodka, because rice has a pretty significant shelf life.
I thought vodka was made from potatoes.
Either or.
No, I'm thinking, you don't know. There's rice.
Rice makes sake.
Yeah,
sake. That's what I was thinking, sake. But yeah, bottom line, any of those like meads and ales, just to cover up the 20% shit that's in the water supply because you live in a city.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like in the time of Washington, you had to feed your kids alcoholic beverages because you couldn't trust the water.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Have you ever seen the tabs at like the events that take place for like the signing of the Declaration?
Well,
55 people, and it was like 129 bottles.
I was just looking at. I just remember seeing that the average person of the 18th century consumed a shit ton more alcohol than we do, just because that's what they drank when they ate. They didn't trust the water.
Because the water was untrustworthy. It would have turned you septic.
Cholera.
Dysentery.
Exactly.
It's like you would have kids fucking chugging alcoholic beverages with their dinner.
What shocks me is that we were real good about discovering what foods you could and couldn't eat throughout history, but we didn't figure out cholera until almost the 19th century. Well, into the 19th century. It wasn't almost the 20th century before they figured out what caused cholera.
Dude, medicine was a horror show until relatively recently in history.
Yeah, you literally have to thank the Holocaust for almost all the advances in medicine.
It's like people say, I would love to go back to this time. I said, no, you wouldn't.
No, you would not.
I mean, if you're knowledgeable enough, but I wouldn't date anything prior to the 50s. And even then, your food's still gonna suck.
Like you could die from a scratch in some of these times.
Like I grew up on a farm that literally, my dad's farm, like slapped some dirt on it.
Actually,
like the motto.
They made a comedy about that. What's his name? The guy that makes the what's the Star Trek parody show? The Orville. He made a movie about that. 8 million ways to die in the West. Yeah, Seth MacFarlane.
Seth MacFarlane, yeah.
And yet, those history, back at the same time in history, people would get shot with large caliber bullets and survive.
Mm-hmm.
I actually saw a thing where you would not want to get shot with a Revolutionary War era rifle. Because they're anywhere from 68 to 77 caliber. Yeah, because the muzzle velocity may not have been anything to write home about. Yeah, but they were massive projectiles.
Yeah,
right.
Well,
both of those are bigger than a 50 cal.
You got to understand too. They were scaling down basically from a cannon And also, they didn't have machinery and tooling that was that precise, so larger was easier to get
They were
about right.
inaccurate as hell, but if you got hit, forget it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Hence, volley fire.
hmm
Well, didn't Nelson get lost his arm to a cannonball, if I'm not mistaken?
Nelson.
Horatio Nelson.
I don't know how he lost his arm, but yeah, he was one armed.
Yeah, I think he lost it to a cannonball and continued to be an admiral. Like they just cut his arm off and he just continued on.
Make an homage to that in the movie Master and Commander, where the little fucking 14-year-old ensign loses his arm, and after his surgery, he continues on as the ensign of the ship.
Surgery.
He even leads them in battle.
Yeah, I mean that's seriously hardcore.
That surgery needs air quotes.
Well,
surgery.
yeah, kind of hack with a hacksaw. They hacked off his arm.
Yeah, yeah. In the late 1800s, they discovered that you bury less people at night if you don't bury people in the morning. Like they didn't understand germs at all, but if something happened and their mornings were full, and the cadavers just stayed until corpses to be the last thing that was done that day, the next day you buried less people. So it became a superstition, if you will, that if you waited to the end of the day to bury instead of the morning, you ended up having less work to do that day.
Well, wasn't it a thing where their ignorance actually accidentally led them to, like, they didn't know about germs, but because they believed sickness came from bad air, quote unquote, they actually did do some positive things to avoid sickness?
Well, all right, that we're talking 200 years earlier than that, but yeah, a plague doctor's mask, the mask of the plague doctor, the droopy nose, is the nose cavity at the end would be filled with nice smelling things.
Rose petals.
Yeah, rose petals.
Crushed rose petals, yeah.
Potpourri or something to that effect. I doubt it was often rose petals because of but yeah, some sort of flowers and wonderful things like that. And that would lead to them having a restricted airflow and not interacting with the same kind of that everybody else did. Which is why it's such nonsense to say, like, I am Native American. My parents on both sides had qualified for reservation status in
tribe membership
in tribes that do not have casinos, so there was no point to it. And they didn't have anything. They didn't domesticate horses. Their contracts were non-contractual. They didn't have the wheel.
Speaking of that, think about the epithet Indian giver. I think that's the genesis of it. Like,
yeah,
their concept of private property was not.
Well, that goes back to them wanting to take back Manhattan. Like, you guys have had it. We want it now. Your time to move on. We can have it now.
Because their concept of land ownership was essentially, well, I'm on the land now.
Yeah. Well, we're actually on this land. We're going to give you this piece right here. It's a swamp. So they were a very, like, they're not like, the Aborigines are so fucked up and backwards, they forgot how to make fire. The Indians had fire and they had food, but this whole idea, this concept of they used every part of the animal, no. They had underweighted bows to get to kill a buffalo. They'd stampede an entire herd, and the buffaloes that died, they took from them. So they weren't this honorable people. I mean, they were honorable in their own rights, but they were also people, so they weren't that great in general.
I think what people say is the myth of the noble savage and all that. It's not that. It's their method of hunting was so inefficient that it didn't threaten extinction. It's not like
Yeah.
they gave it thought and said, well, let's be careful and husband these bison.
Yeah, but if the entire group could eat a buffalo a day, and we're talking 500 fucking pounds of meat.
That and they were hunter gatherers, so that it's not like you would have tribes of thousands of people living together.
Yeah. But you would kill 6 buffalo for a quarter of one is what they would eat, and the rest would rot. It's just the way it happened because of the inefficiencies and like we didn't understand germ theory when we were handing out blankets. We were handing out blankets.
It was kind of that's another myth that arose. There was like one instance where a guy mentioned it in a letter once to a British general. I don't think there was actually any concerted effort to hand out plague blankets.
We were literally like, all right, so
historically, they find one example of it being mentioned in a letter. I forget the name of the British general, but it's like, oh, we could send a blanket from a plague, and I think the general just shot it down. He was like, oh, so it was like so unreliable. It was like he didn't think it was worth the try.
Yeah. Plus, you'd have to get it there, which would kill 16 people on its own right. But that's their thing is the like there's this revisionist bullshit, like the 1619 project on steroids. Like just laughter, like you didn't have horses, you didn't have guns, your bows literally could only kill other people. You're shooting at like 35 foot-pounds of pressure. You're not even killing deer at that point.
You have to remember, like even the most they had. Like the Aztecs were pretty advanced, speaking in the Americas context, but they were also limited by the same thing that kind of held back the Roman Empire. Now think about it: the Roman Empire, they had technology and science,
aqueducts,
but they had no need to develop, say, steam engines because they had so much slave labor. Mm-hmm. Like they knew about the steam, the power of steam, and they even made little machines powered by steam, but they never made an engine because it never occurred to them that they would need to, because they would have thousands of slaves to do all that work.
Mm-hmm.
So the Aztecs was the same thing. They knew shit. I mean, these people had calendars and stuff and could predict solar eclipses. I mean, they had science.
Yeah.
But they had so much slave labor from all the conquests they did. Like, they didn't have to farm. So what was the point of creating farm machinery?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And modern science blames it on God. Like, instead of, like, they call it the Dark Ages.
So you say what you want about the conquistador. The Aztecs are some of the most fucked up people who ever lived.
Yeah. Well, they want to say, like, the Dark Ages is the lack of enlightenment is because why does the sun come up? God. No. Do you understand? Everyone knew that the Earth was round because boats are a thing. You watch a trireme boat that's 95 feet tall. You put it in the water and you watch, and over the course of 20 minutes, it sinks out of existence to you because the curvature of the Earth, you can't see more than 7 miles.
They also did have access to like the Greek, the writings of the Greeks.
Yeah.
So they kind of even knew how to estimate the size of the world and all that. They had a good idea.
Only the learned, though. That's the thing.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, but I'm talking about, like, say, when you say the church, okay, the Vatican, they knew about those books. It's not.
They own those books.
Exactly. They were one of the few institutions that maintained them. At least their monasteries did. So they knew about those books and they knew what was in them. They knew for the most part most of the stuff they found in there checked out. So it's like wow, we're able to go from this point on the planet to that point on the planet accurately using the math that we find in these old books. So it's like they knew it worked. Because think about it, it's not like today. It's like you couldn't get on a plane back then. It was like if you wanted to go somewhere, you actually had to know how to navigate. You wanted to go somewhere really far away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, the problem is the Dark Ages were a result of a societal collapse. The Roman society fell apart, and the knowledge that was lost, the general knowledge that was lost, there was no central authority besides the church that wasn't interested in necessarily upholding all of society and furthering society. You know, and you lead to a loss of technology. That's what's gonna happen when, you know, if we have a singularity. That's what's gonna happen to us.
Yeah, that's how we lost the aqueducts.
People also strangely think that it's the only time that ever happened. That's happened multiple times. We had the Bronze Age collapse.
Exactly. I was going to bring up the Bronze Age collapse. Yeah, it happened. Not only that, it seems to happen about every 1,500 years.
Just think about it. It could happen here because think about the small number of people that actually know how shit works.
What the fuck was it? There was just that thing about the pipe shut off. Oh, what the fuck was it? I was just reading about they didn't have anybody who understood. There was a power outage, and they didn't have anybody on staff who could manually turn off the. What the fuck was it? I was just reading about this like 2 months ago.
Was it the outage that hit the Northeast?
Yeah.
Okay, that was just a cascading failure because a breaker broke.
There is no single individual who understands how the national electric grid works.
Oh well, there was never a single individual who knew how the electric grid works.
It's a giant black box that just miraculously works, and if it ever stopped working, to get it back up would probably take months. And that's in the best case scenario if we didn't lose anybody with the knowledge.
That would have been. Were you affected by like the 2002 blackout? I was.
Yeah.
3
days.
When that happened, I was actually in New Hampshire, and when that happened, like New York went dark, Massachusetts went dark, and most of Vermont went dark. But like it seemed to stop at Nashua in New Hampshire. So, like, I didn't get directly affected, but it was, like, huge news by everybody else in the region.
But look how the times have changed.
Really? I didn't hear anything about that.
In that blackout, the 3 days of darkness in New York was no big deal. If that happened today, you'd have the BLM riots times 10.
Oh,
Instantly. Yeah, it wouldn't even be it would almost be instantaneous.
Whereas when that happened, I didn't even conceive of the city going into riot. We just didn't have riots in the Giuliani-Bloomberg era. It was like, okay, lights are out.
I was so freaking dumb. I was sitting on my bed upside down, just be like in front of a fan, and the fan turned off. Because it's the middle of the day. It was like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And I was like, I'm going to go pick up my paycheck. And I got to the store, and it was all back roads, so no lights or anything.
But talking about the cyclical nature of things, we did have a huge blackout in New York in the late 1970s, like 78, 79-ish.
Yeah, that was the 70, one that 70.
Massive riots, fires, you name it. So it was like for maybe a 25 period in New York where we had a kind of golden age where you didn't even consider stuff like that. But the time before and now the time now, if that shit happened, there's definitely riots and looting.
Oh, we just had a big cookout on my street. Like everybody brought out their fancy from the freezer meals. And we all had like steaks and ribs and all sorts of shit for about 2 days.
Was this an area where everybody has like their refrigerator and then they have a freezer in the basement?
Yeah, we have deep freezers. And like, so day 1 and 2, it was all the stuff from the freezer above your fridge. And day 3, it was from the deep freezer. Like, the shit's not going to go anywhere.
Use it or lose it.
And that's when we all started to keep our milk jugs. And every layer deep of freezer food, you filled like your gallon of milk. Well, you don't fill it all the way up, but you fill it most of the way up. And then you tuck it in your freezer, so you have ice packs if it starts to thaw.
I was watching a movie that was a couple that took not movie series that it took place in World War II, and like everything they made back then, like the clothes and stuff, just seemed better.
Oh yeah, man! Like, you want to make fun of like the TV on top of a TV? That TV was fucking solid. Like I had my grandpa who loves technology. He had this bureau that had a TV.
Well, furniture is a perfect example. Compare the IKEA crap we get today to furniture that you would buy back then.
Yeah.
It was all like handmade.
It was one of those big TVs. It was, I believe, 8 inches across. It had a record player with speakers and a cabinet for your and a cabinet for your 45s and 70s.
It's practically a dinner table.
It was fucking huge. It was. But like, yeah, and then you would have your TV was so big that you're like, oh god, I don't want to move it. So you just put your next TV on top of it, and because the goddamn thing was now so light and piece of shitty, you just picked it up and you set it on top of your old TV.
I'll tell you how crazy it is. My parents actually had one of those, and that's exactly what they used it for, as a stand for a modern TV.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a little harder in the 50s when your Frigidaire actually was an ice box. So you just bought ice.
According to Harrison Ford, could survive a nuclear blast.
Oh, I mean, man, that's technically like a George Lucas or a Steven Spielberg. That's not. I don't. Harrison Ford wrote that into the script.
The literal jumping of the shark moment for Raiders of the Lost Ark.
That whole movie, man. Ever since
refrigerator in the nuclear test.
Oh, in The Last Crusade, Sean Connery ad-lib, she talks in her sleep.
Oh.
So they hadn't had sex until the talk in your sleep.
Is Raggle Fraggle's dog trying to talk?
Yeah, that's his he's got a schnauzer dog with the mute. He fell asleep.
Oh, he's snoring. I thought it was a dog.
Yeah, he's a new papa, so he's still adjusting to schedule with kid.
Oh man, poor guy.
Freaking mute already. There you go. Yeah, he just had the baby.
Boy, girl.
Yeah.
Daddy's little girl.
Yep.
Oh, man, did you guys see that thing I messaged you about the LGBTQ activists that were turned out to be pedos?
Oh, gee, I'm shocked. Wait a minute. This is my shock face.
And they abused their adopted 2 children, boys. Oh man, it was disgusting.
Oh, that thing, yeah. Like I like the monkeypox thing that we're currently getting. They're the 2 gay guys and a dog.
Oh yeah.
I'm not necessarily thinking they fuck the dog. They could. I'm not discounting it, but
why are the pustules in the dog's anus?
Because the dog licks his anus. Dogs' tongues go fucking everywhere.
I mean,
I had a pug that used to snap at my nuts. So if it was a Rottweiler, it would have got my nuts.
You know, what is up with dogs sniffing crotches?
That's how they tell if you're a good person or not.
That's where all the good smells are.
It's like they always go for the crotch, male or female.
But they do it to each other too, so it's clearly some sort of scenty thing. And dogs love me, so make of that what you will.
Has there been any follow-up, Neil, on that stuff out of the Bronx about the elderly residents getting harassed?
Well, I just saw it today, so.
Okay, so that was just the one news story about it?
But then when I went looking, I'm just finding a bunch of news stories in multiple cities about, elderly people getting harassed in apartment complexes. So I got one in Houston where it's the same thing. Terrorized, just targets for criminals.
Hobbs, Maynard, I don't know what you two are talking about, but you need to knock it off. Jew.
The hell?
They're being mean about tiny hats in chat. I cannot abide. Unless I get in on it.
Oh, yeah? Well, the funny thing is, I've had an experience in Brooklyn. You grow up near the Hasidim community. They're a peculiar bunch. And there's always been friction between them and, like, the local community of St. Williamsburg. So, like, they'll always have friction with the blacks and the Hispanics in the area. But now I noticed a kind of new trend where, because they've always been self-reliant because they don't trust anybody, it's like people are starting to copy them now. So they made their own, like, police force called the Shomrin.
Shomrin?
Yeah, and they made their own ambulance forces. And it seems to be the way, like, nationalists want to go, is like they want to make their own stuff instead of relying on government institutions. And I'm like thinking, it seems like the Hasidim were like decades ahead of everybody else.
Yeah. That was like a big joke about Black Panther. Like, Black Panther is a white nationalist wet dream.
Dude, I even made an entire video, an essay about that. It was like one of my first videos. Yeah,
it kills me. Like most diverse movie ever. Like, no, it's the blackest movie. Calm down.
It only had
like,
2 token white characters, and they
let's
white characters.
White characters.
Let's think about the policies of Wakanda. A total closure of their border.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you were not a Wakandan and you were caught at their borders, you were lucky if they deported you, because in the comics it's clear they just killed you. They didn't want their secret getting out. They were totally self-reliant. You know, all their products were made in Wakanda.
Mm-hmm. And all their advances were kept in Wakanda.
And their foreign policy was Wakanda forever, fuck everybody else.
Yeah. They were anti-interventionists, to say the least. Like, man,
World War I and II happened. They just kept to themselves.
Yeah.
So when Wakanda Forever comes out, we should just start the hashtag Make Wakanda Great Again.
Exactly.
That's how it was. And like, what? Oh man, I remember hearing, and this is on a different note, but it made my teeth itch. The Gonzalez chick from Parkland. You know, Sarah Gonzalez? No. The shaved head Cuban Gonzalez chick from the Parkland shooting.
Oh,
with the bomber jacket.
Activist. Okay, yeah.
She talks about when she heard the shooting from her Holocaust class.
Oh Lord.
And I was like, oh God, that makes my teeth itch. Having a class in the Holocaust. And I'm from Michigan, so in Michigan,
I have no objection to the Holocaust being taught as part of history class, but to have a class in a high school dedicated to it, that seems bizarre.
In Michigan, almost all the students were taught that 11 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust.
Isn't that double the standard number?
Yeah. But because they take it from a book from a Nazi hunter,
that'd be a good trick, because the estimated number of Jews alive at that time was a total of 12 million.
14, yeah. But
just saying, I would find that unlikely.
Yeah, well, it was a Nazi hunter. It is from the book, and the book that we got. So the Midwest. All of the Midwest thinks it's 11 million Jews, and I'm very not anti-Jewish because
But this is strange, because I seriously doubt that there's a dedicated class to the Holocaust in an Israeli high school. They probably just teach history, and yes, I'm guessing they focus on that as a big part of history. But I wouldn't see Israeli kids going to a Holocaust class.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm less favorable with the Jews, but I was orphaned at a young age, and my Christmases were often spent. It's Jewish Christmas is basically what it was. I would no, a Jewish Christmas. It's what they call it. It's you get up, you go for Chinese food because they're also not Christians.
Yeah.
And then you go and you watch a doubleheader at the movies.
That's actually a real thing.
Yeah, and then afterwards you'd go back. You'd have some sort of like a Chinese or Indian food, and that was my Christmas day because my family's died basically, and it was just me and my brother, and he had a girlfriend that he was close with, and I did not. So I would go and have a Jewish Christmas, and I would often get adopted by a Jewish family. And we would have a very enjoyable day. They were good people. They were fun to talk to.
I'll never forget. Before the late '90s, I knew of that as like a joke. But then when I started working and I had Jewish friends, Christmas came and I found out, oh, you actually guys do that.
Yeah.
It would come in like the day after. Oh yeah, we went out and had Peking duck. I was like, you guys actually do that?
Yeah, I would end up getting adopted for the day and spend it with a nice Jewish family who were very kind and caring, and they treated me for the whole day because they knew I was a Gentile, and let
me tell you something. In my experience, most of the friction between different races and religions is actually caused by white progressives, and here's why. Never saw a Jewish person had a problem with anybody saying Merry Christmas. In fact, they'll tell you Merry Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Muslims.
Yeah.
Muslims, I've never heard one get offended by hearing Merry Christmas. The only people I've ever heard offended by this is white progressives who insist that it's disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Never in my entire life has anyone but a white progressive said they were offended by saying Merry Christmas.
One of my favorite things to see is, and you can find them on YouTube Shorts, is progressive people that consider themselves progressive going to places that are more progressive and being shocked. Like this New York comedian went to Seattle and went to Starbucks and ordered himself a coffee. He's like, yeah, give me a grande mocha latte, or not a mocha latte because that would have milk in it, but he's like, and then give me a tall coffee black, and got corrected by the barista that she's like, what, you mean no milk? He's like, yeah, black. Well, it's offensive to say black. We don't say black, we say without milk. And it blew his mind.
Meanwhile, Crayolas had Negro as a color for 39 years before someone wanted to cry about it.
Well, it's Spanish for black.
Yeah, that's all it is. No, I could see like some offense to nude.
I'll give you it's worse, because negro in Spanish is not just the word for black. That is what they call black people, or is one of the more common words.
That's what you just called a black person.
Yeah. Well, so I'm saying it's
our
negro.
color black is black, and you just called them black. So
that's what I'm saying. It's not like this isolated word. It's the word.
Yeah, I would say nude is a more offensive word than black or wild negro.
Nude is an assumption. Think about it. Historically, people act as if the United States was this. They say it was a melting pot, but it was a melting pot primarily of Europeans, because prior to 1965, the place was still like 90% just ethnic Europeans.
And prior to Henry Ford, Detroit was a beautiful place. Henry Ford brought in the blacks because he said fuck the unions.
I only bring that up because I don't know if you saw the recent controversy with the Royal Air Force in the UK, where they said they put a pause on accepting white applicants to the Royal Air Force, so that they could get.
This has been my beef with the UK for a while. Where do you think white people come from?
Well, it's worse, because even if you want to say, okay, it should reflect their modern diversity, okay, in 2022, there's still 87% European.
Yeah, yeah. With 5% being gay, anytime you have a gay in a TV show or a movie, if they get a boyfriend, they are 4 times over the general representation in any country.
Well, this is the crazy thing. So that means 87% of the British population is ethnic white European. 13% other. And that breaks down to half and half, where like 5% is black, 5% is like Asian, meaning actually Pakistani. That's just what they call Asian over there.
Yeah, but don't get it wrong. They're all in London.
And so what is the makeup? What is the current makeup of the Royal Air Force? Well, surprisingly, it's like the 87% and the 5 and 5. So what diversity are they aiming for? They already have it. But apparently their target is 20% non-white. So they want to, they're looking to get double the representation from a population that historically is not as motivated to volunteer for their military.
What were you saying, Sean? Because I think you were going to correct me, and I want to slap you in the face with statistics.
Birmingham.
London, England is 43.4% of London's population white British.
Birmingham is like the Portland of the United Kingdom. It is the wokest part. Or I should say Berkeley.
Yeah. Half of London is elites, and the other half of London is foreigners.
Correct, but there's towns, cities in the UK that have basically been completely overrun.
Oh, when they have like the 1,600 Africans come in and they all dump them in one spot, and that spot was 1,300 whites.
Yeah,
it was even worse. Yeah. It's like 600.
Yeah, there's towns that, and I can't remember this. I think it was Birmingham. I could be wrong on this, but there is a town that is almost exclusively Pakistani Muslim. Like all of their city laws, all of their representatives, all that stuff. They were trying to
that's where Tommy Robinson is from.
Yeah, it's Tommy Robinson's hometown. Yeah.
Yeah, they were trying to out-Muslim each other, basically.
Good old toothless Tommy.
I don't know if that's where she was, but when Lauren Southern, the last time they allowed her to the UK, she passed out these flyers that said Allah is gay, and they kicked her out of the country for that. They haven't let her back in. Meanwhile, the LGBTQ movement of 2021, 2022 actually passed out flyers that said Allah is gay. So I'm like, she was just ahead of her time. She did it in 2016. It got put on the terrorist list, but now that's like mainstream woke ideology in the UK.
Yeah, and I'm getting real tired of them blaming us for it.
I didn't do nothing.
We kind of exported that shit over there, man. It's like the French gave it to us, and then we marinated that over here for a decade or so, and now they've imported that shit from back across the Atlantic to the UK.
You're right. It has it. Yeah, we imported it from France, or the French school, anyway.
They gave us a statue,
which is actually in Germany. But,
yeah,
but it was like the French postmodernists and all that shit.
Right.
Yeah, but you want to talk about like where you get like if you actually learn shit about Hitler, he's not Mr. White Nationalist guy in the sense like he's a vegan. He was very much into animal rights, but he has some stuff that you can't help but agree with. Like he had a major issue with the German sex alteration society, And the books that were burned weren't.
I just want to correct people. Hitler was not a white nationalist. He didn't give a fuck about white nationalism.
Yeah.
He was into this mythical Aryan race.
Yeah. And that technically is, you follow Aryans back, that's Iran. Not exactly the whitest of bastions.
It's just a weird pseudo-scientific creation. It's like the Aryan race, this, that, and the other. It's like there were swaths of the population in Germany that he wouldn't have considered. I'm talking about Germans that he would have considered Aryan, just on weird phrenology type basis. So it's like a strange.
And oddly, he wasn't Aryan himself.
Yeah, he's an Austrian. But his stuff on the transgenders and the perversion that came out of Germany in the 20s and 30s.
You got to remember they first appealed to like the very conservative kind of Catholic military corps, so that was a big thing for them.
I'm saying like they make him a villain because of his villainous nature. Like, he wasn't that villainous.
No.
As far as in the 1900s.
I mean,
Stalin's got 100 million bodies on him. Pol Pot got, what, 60?
I always say this, he's not the worst person who ever lived, but being the second or third worst person who ever lived is not exactly a consolation prize. It's like, okay, I can point to Stalin and Mao are worse than me, but I only killed about, 15 or 20 people.
Well, and he gets the entirety of the blame, and probably rightfully so, for every death of World War II.
Yeah, when in between China and Japan, they killed like 25 million Orientals all on their own.
The guy that gets off, this is actually a feat because he did this in a time when this was hard, was Genghis Khan. That dude has this gigantic, monumental statue of him in Mongolia to this day that people revere. And I count him as one of the world. I count him as one of the four horsemen of like one of the worst individuals who ever lived. He
doesn't count. He doesn't count. That's like, all right. So, you say you're a logger. If you cut down a tree, and then you plant a tree, then you're even. That's Genghis Khan.
I know what you're saying.
5% of the world's got his bloodline.
But he wiped out like such a chunk of the world population when he survived.
But if you kill 3% of the population,
that's
you breed 5%.
That's saying the same line of reasoning of Thanos of Titan. Like, he's the hero.
I saved half the people.
It's bizarre because like if you watched the horrible movie The Eternals, it kind of makes your change your perspective on Thanos if you want to let yourself think that way. It's like, maybe he actually had a point.
Well, yeah, but
because if in Eternals you find out, had he not done the snap and killed half the sentient life on the Earth for that 4-year period, that this being would have emerged out of the Earth like an egg, and it would have destroyed the planet. So you're like, okay, so they saved the people from the snap, but had this been allowed to happen 4 years earlier before there was an Avengers, the Earth and everyone would have died. So in a bizarre way, Thanos actually saved all life on Earth.
Yeah, but his daughter, what's her nugget? Gamora, whatever. If you look at her statistics during the scene where she's getting arrested, she's the only survivor of her planet. So he wasn't killing half.
No, they explicitly show that they were separating them into halves.
But he killed everybody.
No, he didn't. Half. He only killed half. That's his whole shtick, is he was killing half.
She's the last survivor of her planet.
She is not, though. She became his daughter. He adopted her because he killed her mother. Indiscriminately, because that's how he worked. It was indiscriminate. It was
but
he's literally Two-Face, flipping a coin.
he had no criteria. It was totally random.
Right.
Yes,
Kill.
but he left the planet after killing half the people, and the other half died. From the
you're
time
saying-
Gamora was
You're
6 or
saying
whatever.
that Thanos
Yeah.
didn't personally kill everyone on the planet.
Oh, he didn't obliterate the planet. He killed half the people.
and then subsequently the other
Yes.
half died.
Yeah, he took her off the planet, and from the time he did it, when she was like 6, to the time she was 26, even though Sylvie's in her mid-30s, in that 20-year period, the rest of them died.
Interesting.
Yeah, because, all right, just watch Guardians of the Galaxy again, and you will see she is the only survivor of the planet.
Well, that's again, this is why the Marvel, the way they've set things up now kind of sucks. You have to sit through the shitty Eternals movie to get really the backstory of what Thanos saw. Why he was so fucking adamant that he had to do that shit.
Oh my god, I found like no chemistry between the guy and the girl until the guy and the guy kissed.
Dude, that movie was so bad.
Like there was no chemistry between that Asian chick and Mr.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Which is weird because she's fucking hot.
Yeah. But then there was absolutely no chemistry between the black guy and the brown guy.
I don't know if it was the writing was bad or the actors just didn't mesh, or the directing. It was just
It could be
all the way around.
Above. It could be all of the above, and we know for a fact that Marvel writing is shit.
And
yeah,
the thing
some of it's clever. Some of it's clever. Like the fact that was put in there.
Okay,
like she was the last survivor.
That bothers me about Marvel now is like all their movies have just kind of become the same. It's just banter, constant banter. That's like, okay, but real people don't act like this. Real people don't get into life and death combat and just exchange banter, witty banter. Oh, he's trying to kill me. Let me exchange quips.
Was that just Thor: Love and Thunder, or because there was some of that?
The thing is, it worked in the Thor Ragnarok because that movie kind of just embraced it and went for it. But now every Marvel movie is the same formula.
Like I had a couple friends in wrestling, and when we would get to championships and finals and stuff, and I would face them, there would be some talking throughout the match.
Yeah, but think
so
about
like,
it.
If it's Thor and Hulk doing it versus, like some nemesis or something, it's completely different.
But this will be even like the character thinking to themselves. Like it's like, oh, I totally did that. I'm swinging on a web like Spider-Man. It's like, well, who even talks to himself that way?
Yeah.
Oh, so random.
Well, I think that's because Disney and almost all movies for the last decade have been tell, don't show.
Mm-hmm. Like with Reacher, they had to make Reacher into Reacher from the Reacher series of books. Reacher was very cerebral in his own mind and not a vocal person. They had to turn him into Sherlock Holmes to get it out there so that he was as smart as he needed to be.
They've in the past been able to not fall into that trap. Like if you saw the Punisher series on Netflix, he wasn't sitting there making quips. This is a movie about a guy that had his family taken, murdered, and he's getting revenge. It's like he's not sitting there talking about making quips. He's kind of silent throughout most fights.
Yeah, the Punisher movie and the Punisher TV show were very different.
Like, it started in the Daredevil series where he was like a supporting. Well, he was kind of the villain. Think about it.
He's the anti-hero. He's not a hero.
And he was so awesome in it, they just gave him a spin-off series. The actor John Berthal, he's in the right role, he's awesome.
I can't watch him yet.
But you put him in the wrong one, like
he's still shamed at me. I'm looking forward to the day I can watch the Punisher series.
Okay, but speaking of that, even though The Walking Dead is now unwatchable, Shane was right, and I think even
Yes.
Rick would admit it,
Yes.
because Rick essentially morphed into Shane eventually.
Yeah. I did a walkthrough, like a strategic game plan, and my
Shane
walkthrough
was just like 4 seasons ahead of Rick.
yeah, my walkthrough. I'm a fucking communist dictator, man, and it's the only way it worked out after a recovering collapse was literally to have
Isn't it
all
weird?
the food and a slave labor system.
That's all The Walking Dead is. It's a study of different freaking government styles.
Yeah, but everyone was like, no, and I'm like, yeah, I attack you because you took the guns away from your citizens.
Every season
your resources are
essentially
now ISIS resources.
is a struggle between 2 competing civilizations or societies
Mm-hmm.
that are often set up with a different governing philosophy. And that's basically what every season boils down to.
Mm-hmm.
And usually at the end, one society survives and the other one collapses.
Mm-hmm. I was in a gunfight in Texas, where we're running a bounty on a guy, and these 2 idiots, and the whole bounty hunting system is ridiculous in America, which is, if you should have done it, it would have been fun. But these 2 jackass cholos start opening fire on us from a block away with pistols. I don't understand why. I don't know if they thought we were ICE or what, but they're not hitting us because they're pistols and they don't understand ballistics. I unfortunately have a shotgun, so I am out of shooting at these assholes. But because we are mature macho men who laugh in the face of danger, we are talking shit. And because I'm just hiding behind the engine block of a car because I don't have a long range weapon, and basically my boss, he's a Wayne County sheriff and has a MP5 that is a short barreled. It's a pistol, but it's rifle length barrel. So he's the only one able to return fire. And I very jokingly order a pizza on my phone and harass everybody about the toppings they want on their pizza while we're standing there behind the engine blocks of these cars as a joke to what was happening in the situation. So I can see the macho need to remain calm while different stupid shit is going on, but banter in a lively sort is one of the dumbest things you can do, and you see it everywhere. So if you're not, the best part was the cops paid for the pizza.
I saw a documentary on bounty hunters in New York, and well, at least the group I was that they were following were making a lot of money.
Well, there's 2 parts to bounty hunting, because you can go out and catch the bounties, or you can be in collections, and you can make serious money on the collections end.
Well, I'm just thinking about it. New York, it's a big city with lots of crime, so it's like literally never a shortage of opportunity to just go collect the bounty. Those guys are just working every day.
I wouldn't do it without a gun.
Well, dude, these guys they went out like fucking. They were going to invade Ukraine. They were all in tack gear and rifles. These guys look like ninjas.
Yeah. I have a story about Dog the Bounty Hunter before he was Dog the Bounty Hunter that just doesn't do well for me. He literally caught a guy. Like, we called him in. He was in Colorado still. This is before he moved to Hawaii. And he was the hot shot. Like, if you were failing, you called in Dog, and Dog got it done. And everyone was absolutely talking shit about this guy. We had no idea what he looked like, and he we all know what he looks like, so it was hilarious when we actually met him. But we met him. He was standing over our bounty in the fucking airport. He, no joke, landed, caught the guy, handed him over to us, and caught the next plane out and made 20 grand.
That was a profitable trip.
Yeah.
Dog, the bounty hunter.
Yeah. But there's a part of bounty hunting that is basically repossession. Like if you put up your car for collateral, or your house for collateral, we take it from you legally. That's ours now, and we sell it for what we can sell it for. We give you like if we take it on Tuesday, we'll give you to like the next week to turn over the friend yourself or call us or whatever. Because chances are we're not going to make the money worth. But there's been times where you unfortunately don't have something that is $20,000, so you have to put up something that is $50,000.
They have all kinds of. At least they used to have all kinds of reality shows based on repo.
Well, I did repo
cars,
before.
Repoing planes, boats.
I kicked in doors for a bounty hunter for a decade. I did 1 day in repossession, and I paid off her bill. I couldn't do it. The car had 2 car seats in it, and the girl was pretty. And
Sucker.
You were simping before the word even had a meaning.
Well, I did dick her sister, so I figured that was even. But I couldn't do it. The fact that we were fucking around with our back to the house, 6 kind of chills. I just, everything about it, I did not like it at all. And she came out, and I'm like, we're gonna let you get your stuff out of the car. And then she did this thing where she cried, and then my wallet cried.
Didn't Jude Law and Forrest Whitaker do a movie where they were repoing like medical devices out of live people?
Oh, yeah, and then Jude Law had to get like medical devices put in. And
was it Repo Men? Is that?
No, that isn't that. No, wait, I'm thinking New Jack. That's might have been Repo Man.
Might have been the title, Repo Men.
I prefer
Forrest Whitaker.
I prefer Repo, a genetic opera, which is
that'd be a movie for Matt to review.
Oh God, no. I love Anthony Head, but it's also got Bill Mosby, the girl from Spy Kids, Anthony Stewart Head, Giles from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, Matt should do, if you want
Paris Hilton
movie. A 1980s movie that Matt should do is The Lost Boys.
I think it's been on a list. I don't think it ever got selected, but I think it was on a list.
Because The Lost Boys is, I don't think it was the first, but it was like the first major Hollywood movie that took vampires from like the old ugly monster to like a modern, cool, hip kind of vampire.
Okay, there's two Repo Man. There is.
Well, it would have to have Jude Law and Forrest Whitaker as the stars.
There is the Emilio Estevez Repo Man.
No, not that.
And then there is Repo Men with Jude Law and Dog
Forrest
the
Whitaker,
Samurai.
And who is the fucking corrupt
Dog the Urban
boss?
Samurai. Liv Shriver.
Yeah. He was like their corrupt supervisor.
Yeah.
Was Love Bites before or after Lost Boys?
Love B-Y-T?
B-I-T-S. Love Bites.
Oh.
I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, that's a Nick Cage movie about vampires, and I think it's before Lost Boys.
Because it's, like I said, Lost Boys isn't the first, but it was like the first that caught on.
Love Bites is 300-year-old vampire rehumanized. I'm not seeing Nick Cage, though.
Maybe it was. God, I'm pretty sure it was Nick Cage.
And the thing it has going for it, it was campy without being overly campy.
Adam Ants.
Adam Ant was in that movie.
It had
Adam
Kiefer
Ant, Kimberly Foster, Michael Forbes, Roger Rose. Well, hold on. Let me read it to you. A 300-year-old vampire tries to rehumanize after falling in love with a beautiful mortal. His attempts are thwarted, however, by a jealous vampire lover and his new love, jealous fiance. Can an ancient vampire find love and happiness in the 20th century? Is that the one we're talking about?
I think so. Yeah.
All right, so that is...
Or maybe it's Jim Carrey. Maybe Jim Carrey's in that.
No, that's Once Bitten.
Okay.
Oh, it wasn't that the one where he got saved because he was a virgin?
Yeah.
And the female lead had sex with him, so he wasn't a virgin anymore. And
Yeah, it was
the
Lauren
vampire
Hutton.
couldn't bite him. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was more like, wasn't that more like a kind of predatory MILF movie?
That was Cougar in the Making. That's what
Yeah.
that was. And I love Cleavon Little in that movie. That was 85. So that makes more sense. 85 for Once Bitten and Lost Boys.
85.
I want to say
85
86.
85.
I want to
86.
say 87.
No,
80 Lost Boys 87.
Wow.
And then a few years after that came another movie. It wasn't quite as big, but it was Near Dark. That had the guys from the movie Aliens in it.
Yeah, that was Hudson and no, that had to be. I think that was the same time period.
Dude,
That was 87. It was October of 87. Lance Henriksen, Bill Paxton.
Yep, all three of them were in Aliens.
Adrian Pastar, Tim Thomerson. I love me some Tim Thomerson.
Think about it. They were in Aliens, and I believe each of them also appeared in a Terminator movie.
Yeah. Followed behind them is
So this is
the girl who played Vasquez, the
Yep.
macho chick with the big gun. She's the mother
in Terminator 2.
Yeah.
She's the adopted mother or
Yeah. Yeah,
foster
she's
mother.
stepmom. Yeah. So we just need to kill her off in the next Predator movie. And we have gender equality.
She was in. See, all three of them, Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen, and her, they were all three. And think about this: these movies came out back to back to back. They were in Aliens, Near Dark, and then the Terminator films. Well, was Lance Henriksen? He wasn't in the Terminator.
He was in the first Terminator movie.
So was Paxton.
Oh, he was a cop. That's right.
Yeah, Paxton just got backhanded and it's a death.
Paxton was you're 2 cans short of a 6-pack. Had to do up his clothes, right?
Yeah, it was literally the opening scene.
But the blue he had a blue mohawk or some kind of crazy hair.
He was a punk in the bar.
Which another guy in Near Dark was the guy in. He got killed in a bar in Near Dark, and in Terminator 2 he was the guy that Arnold said, oh, "I need your clothes, your boots." So he got his ass kicked in a bar twice.
Wait, wasn't
exactly
Terminator 2? Wasn't that the? No, that was Terminator 3. That was strip club. Terminator 2 was the biker bar.
Yep, T2. He was the biker that Arnold walked up to and said, "Give me your clothes and your boots and all that shit," and then took his bike. That guy got beat up and killed in Near Dark in a bar by Bill Paxton's character, Severin.
Let's see here.
The infamous bar scene.
Oh my God, his name's Robert Winley, and he's not even in his own IMDb picture. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger naked.
Give me your clothes, your boots.
Can't let you take the man's ride.
Wonder what was he even credited as? I bet you didn't even have a name.
Well, in Near Dark, he's patron in a bar.
Patron in a bar. It's totally.
But I remember him from his scene in Stone Cold.
But he's another one. He's gonna have a bunch of IMDb entries, and probably you won't even remember half of them.
There's some good movies.
Yeah.
Stone Cold, The Stranger, Pinocchio's Revenge, Joyride.
Stone
Terminator
Cold
2.
was weird. Is that for an action movie, it was pretty good, and then he didn't make any more. That guy.
Brian Bosworth did.
Yeah.
I think Stone Cold was probably my second favorite of the Brian Bosworth movies. He also no, Stone Cold might actually be the one, but
because that came out around the same time that like Sylvester Stallone made that shitty arm wrestling movie Over the Top. That one, I don't know, it didn't work for me.
Compare that to Cliffhanger. Which one was better?
I mean, the kid just killed that movie. You know, oh god.
Yeah, I think it would have been Stone Cold was 91, and then he did One Tough Bastard in like 90.
See, I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
I just remember Stone Cold.
I preferred Beyond the Law with Charlie Sheen, which basically had the same cast of bad guys.
Charlie Sheen is weird. He had a run there where he made great stuff, and then he just came like, I don't want to say Nicolas Cage because he still does make decent movies every once in a while, but he really fell off.
I think Lance Henriksen and William Forsythe were both in Beyond the Law.
That's another guy that, I mean, just Lance Henriksen, he's going to have a big IMDb list, and it's going to be like...
Lance Henriksen is, you're not an actor if you're not acting.
Okay, I'd add this movie to the list from Matt, would be Hobo with a Shotgun.
Oh my god. Michael Madsen. Holy shit, am I thinking of the wrong movie? Is Lance Henriksen not even in this?
The trailer for Hobo with a Shotgun is just ridiculous.
Lance Henriksen isn't even in this fucking movie. What the?
Hobo
I think I'm conflating the movies together.
That one or Grindhouse?
I like Grindhouse.
I guess Michael Madsen's the bad guy in Beyond the Law. Now I'm conflating these two fucking movies together. Well, it took place in 93, so it was released after.
What do you think Matt would say about something like Cannonball Run? You know,
just admit it. You want to talk about the Rat Race, and then we'll talk about Rat Race.
It's too comedic. I don't know if you like that one. It would be like asking Matt to watch a Burt Reynolds movie. I don't think.
It is a Burt Reynolds movie.
Exactly.
Hey, Matt, how about you watch Gator?
I don't know if I just don't think he'd like that type of movie. That's what it essentially is. It's Burt Reynolds just being Burt Reynolds. Which, if you don't know who Burt Reynolds is, it's hard to see that working.
Some of Dom DeLuise's best films, though.
Is Dom DeLuise actually gay, or did he just play effeminate characters?
Well, he's got
effeminate characters. He's got 3 sons.
Well, remember back then that didn't really mean anything. I mean, it's a comment for Hollywood guys to like kind of conceal.
You need to have a talk with my grandma.
Like, I remember when Rock Hudson was discovered to be gay. That was like a huge deal. Oh my god, he has AIDS and he's gay.
Well,
and that was like the 80s when that dropped. Although a lot of people suspected.
Yeah, well, but then there was people like Paul Lynde who everybody knew. He never came out and said it, but everybody knew.
I mean, there were guys who were open about it. I mean,
when was Liberace going to say?
I was going to say the dancer guy, Liberace, or the
dancer. He's a pianist.
I mean, a pianist. He was pretty open about it.
There really is a difference between the 70s and the 80s. Like,
I mean, he never did he ever really get any shit over it? I don't remember.
Well, it's kind of like Richard Simmons. We all know he's gay, but he's never actually come out and said it.
Hey, everybody! guys.
We used to have it playing on a corner in the gym for on days when people had to cut weight.
Why? What was this thing with chasing Regis Philbin through audiences?
That might have been a Regis Philbin thing.
It's funny. I used to, as a kid, come home from swim practice and watch Regis and Kathy Lee, and I understood why Kathy Lee was famous. A, she was married to Gifford and hot, so I understood that, but I never understood why Regis was a big thing. I had no idea for like years that he had a singing career.
He was.
I just found out today that he had a singing career.
He was releasing albums like till recently.
Yeah.
Well, he's no Hasselhoff.
Would be him singing with Kathy Lee, stuff like that. Christmas songs and shit.
Oh no, I don't think so.
Well, and for the longest time, I would listen to Casey Kasem's American Top 40 because that's what you did back then. I had no idea till I was an adult that he was the voice of Shaggy.
I just found that out now.
Speaking of Canucks, they want to ask what about Trailer Park Boys the movie? To throw on Matt's list.
I like some Canadian comedy, but Trailer Park Boys was never one of them.
You know what might appeal to him just because of the issue? Canadian bacon.
Oh, I love John Candy.
Because think about it, it's about how to trick a nation into going to war, or the process. And it is a brilliant kind of setup where they just pick the most innocuous country you could imagine that is of no threat to the United States at all, Canada. And it's just the hysterical thing of seeing Americans all riled up about Canada. That movie just cracked me up.
Man, we were all kind of riled up about the truckers.
We should start pushing the Canadian conspiracy.
I just remember there wasn't a scene in that movie where one of the it wasn't John Candy, but one of his friends is screaming, "The only good Canadian is a dead Canadian."
Michael Moore played Redneck number 2.
The only good Canadian is a dead Canadian. Oh man, I think Ray Perlman was in that movie.
Yeah. Jim Belushi, Stephen Wright, Kevin G. O'Connor.
I think I saw that movie, but I can't be sure.
Wallace Shawn. James Carville.
I could see him doing a cameo in that.
Yeah, probably as a talking head on CNN or something like that. We gotta kill these damn Canadians or something.
We can't let these Canadians walk all over us.
Yeah, something.
Alan Alda as the president. Rip Torn as the General Dick Panzer.
Well, that's the funny part, is that Alan Alda didn't believe that you could convince Americans to go to war with Canada, and Rip Torn's like, oh, we can get them to go to war with anybody. Yeah, Matt
Rip Taylor. There we go. There's another gay.
I think Matt would go for that one. Canadian bacon.
I'd like to see him do something like L.A. Confidential.
I think Blonde would like that movie.
I think Matt would too, honestly.
Because it's very noirish.
Yeah.
I want to start putting in like my favorite movies.
And
but
think about isn't the whole point of noir where the woman is always at fault?
Well, it just means dark.
It's like, well, think about it. Every noir movie I've ever seen, like you have the main character and his foil is always a woman.
Well, dames, man, dames.
The hard-boiled detective, his life's going good. Then this mysterious woman will come in his office with a case, and he'll be sympathetic towards her, but then she's really the problem. Because that's every noir movie I ever see.
Yeah, careful talking about noir. We might summon Razor Fist, and nobody wants that.
Is that a bad thing?
It depends. Do you want to be on the end of those rage cannons? I don't.
Because like there was even this video game that was pretty good. It was L.A. Noir.
L.A. Confidential. Well, yeah, L.A. Noir, which is the main storyline through that is the storyline of L.A. Confidential.
Look, I remember playing that game. It's like you could just be an asshole and just accuse everybody of murder. They had this interrogation system, and you could be aggressive or you could be like sympathetic.
Yeah, I'd like to see Rockstar redo another game like that, but they'd have to get really good writers, and I don't know that those exist anymore.
It's like there's this scene where like you're interrogating this young teenage girl, and you could just be so aggressive and accuse her of murder. She's like totally shocked.
A lot of the racisms in that game.
It's true to the time it took place.
Absolutely, it is. But yeah, unfortunately, you can't do that now. We can't even acknowledge that used to be a thing.
I hear not even Rockstar is bending the knee, and the next Grand Theft Auto is going to be woke. They said they're no longer going to punch down at underrepresented groups or something.
The only thing I heard about it is
marginalized groups.
They're going to have the ability to have a female protagonist in Grand Theft Auto 6.
I don't mind that. That's fine.
That's fine with me too.
Running over gigolos and getting the cash back. That's going to be nice.
Hot latte. Be the first mod. Or no, it'll be a hot pumpkin spice latte for the basic bitches.
Dark Passage is my favorite film noir. I'm gonna look up Dark Passage. Never even heard of it.
Isn't there like the most infamous noir films like this? I'm trying to remember the name of the detective. Is it Mike Hammer or something?
No, that was the 80s version of and it was a serialized show. Was the Mike Hammer stuff?
Yeah, it was kind of like a.
Oh, Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall,
it was like
Ange Moorhead.
A recurring detective character that it was like kind of like
Sam
the noir
Spade.
There you go.
I think it's Sam Spade.
That's it. It's like the best example of that type of genre.
And the dad from My Three Sons was in a bunch of noir flicks, or at least two.
So I think the premise of it is that Sam Spade is either a former cop or something like that. He's a really jaded private detective, jaded and cynical, and it's like all the movies involve some fucked up villainous woman who initially comes to him as the client, and she ends up being like the actual bad person.
Wait, isn't Sam Spade from the Maltese Falcon? Because that would have been Bogart then.
No, and you're thinking to play it again, Sam. Line.
Come to think of it, isn't
Sam
Casablanca? Would that be considered noir?
For some reason, it's not.
Because again, there's a movie
close.
Where the woman initially, you feels sort of a sympathy for, but isn't the woman the problem really in Casablanca? Apart from the Nazis, I guess. Because the whole thing at the end, she leaves with the other dude, but meanwhile, for the whole movie, she was canoodling with Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah. The characters in the Maltese Falcon are Sam Spade, Ruth Wonderly, the Continental Op, Ray Gutman, Casper Gutman, Floyd Thursby.
All right, now I'm going to have to look up the... Well, maybe Sam Spade was just the one in the books. Our film detective.
Well, like whenever, say, Jean-Luc Picard was in the holodeck, wasn't he kind of like acting out the novels or the books of the detective we're thinking of?
If I had a holodeck, I'd just be acting out Bruce Almighty.
The funny thing about Bruce Almighty, it was like modern for its time, but still a retelling of this kind of like these 3 movies they made, Oh God, You Devil, with that actor George Burns playing God.
I just wanted to say that I would act as God. I just wanted to get across there.
Yeah, the Oh God movies were a big part of my childhood.
I think they made 3 of them. It was like Oh God, You Devil, and then 2 and 3. And in each of them, it was like, wasn't it God would take a vacation?
It's been so long since.
Actually, I was just thinking about the guy from that movie. Because I was thinking of Sheena. Because I was doing my list in my head of like movies Matt wouldn't get at all, and it would have been like Beastmaster with Tanya Roberts. Tanya Roberts was also in Sheena, and then Ted Wass was in Sheena, and he was also in.
So that's the other thing I would say. People think like having female action heroes is some kind of new thing. They had those in the early.
No, the best ones were
They had even they even made that movie Red Sonja. They adapted that from the comic just for Bridget Nielsen
yeah.
And they couldn't put Conan the Barbarian in it because they didn't have the rights, so they just had Arnold Schwarzenegger play. And you saw it was Arnold Schwarzenegger, so you're supposed to think, okay, it's Conan, even though he wasn't Conan in the film.
He was the leader of the country, like of the area, and he had the Conan sword and the Conan outfit. I don't know if he actually has a name. Like, because originally he was a stranger who helped her fight people off.
It's hinted at that he's actually a king.
Well, he's not a king, but he's like the high magistrate of that area. He's the one who was supposed to destroy the.
Even though he's wandering by himself, he's supposed to be a big deal.
Well, yeah, he was just going to the female monastery, whatever it's called, to drop the, and he was alone because that icon, the orb or whatever it was, reacted poorly to men.
Men couldn't touch it or they died.
Yeah. So that's probably why he was alone. I just watched that movie the other day.
The Chinese kid, that movie.
Oh, I love him, and he's in everything at the time because he is the son. He's Ernie Reyes Jr. and Ernie Reyes Sr. was a really popular martial arts choreographer of the time.
This is the reason. Two big reasons why that movie couldn't be made today, or as is. Number one, the lead character is raped in like the first few minutes of the show, or at least it's
gang raped.
Yeah, so
she
problematic.
Let her whole platoon of soldiers.
Number two is the Orientalism, the inclusion of the Ernie Reyes Jr. character. They'll say it's Orientalism.
No, because his Falcon was his protector, and he was played by like an Italian or something.
I just don't know if they'd allow that portrayal today.
Paul Smith was a Jew, but still whatever.
And there was a third reason it would be considered problematic. Oh, the focus on in order to sleep with her, you had to beat her in a fight, which technically meant you had to kill her, which is a strange association of violence and sex again.
That's my favorite.
Huh?
So that's my favorite association of that particular. Yeah, was Rensoya supposed to be a Conan movie? Arnold Schwarzenegger's original character was intended to be a reprisal of Conan, but it was not because they didn't have the rights to the name.
Yep. Which is weird because why would the Robert E. Howard estate have a problem with that unless they sold the rights to another movie company? Did they do like what the Lord of the Rings disaster that is going to start tomorrow did?
Oh, does that start tomorrow? Oh, no, I thought it started in September.
No, it's September 2nd, yeah.
Oh.
It got pushed back.
Oh, the other woke thing started today. Shit.
What's that? Because
Game of Thrones House of the Dragon.
Oh, I don't care for the dragons. There's something about his wing line I don't like.
Well, the thing is, it's totally woke. They race swapped one of the Targaryen or one of the Valyrian families. Suddenly the Valyrians went from white to black.
I was watching Neurotic and Mahler talk about that at work today. I didn't get all the way through it, but they were generally favorable towards it, which I thought was weird.
Well, that's the only, I haven't watched it. The only thing I noticed that I was like, wait a minute, when did the Valyrians become black? That's what basically the race of people that the Targaryens are. You know, Daenerys and all that. Right. They're Valyrians. There's no reference to that. There being black Valyrians.
Well, and my understanding was they were George R.R. Martin's analog for elves.
Technically, J.K. Rowling never said Hermione was white. Not some bullshit.
And the thing is that this particular family that they race swapped is actually described in his books, and they're not. I mean, they're just written as Valyrians.
So, how do you feel about it? Or do you see a distinction between James Bond and 007?
I never really gave it that much thought.
Because, like, when they started talking about, like, James Bond is a person, 007 is a title.
True. It's a designation.
Yeah, it's a designation. So that can be anybody, technically.
Yeah, you figure if James Bond dies, you just call someone else 007.
Yeah. You figure it's like a part of the world or something.
It's like a number on a baseball team, except, you know, in the intelligence community, they wouldn't retire your number. Yeah,
like you've got like CHICOM, which is China Command. You got NORCOM for North Command. You have like different sections that are, so like 007 happens to be either a specific region or a specific type of infiltration.
It's very British though, because I noticed this from no one actually said this. I didn't read this anywhere, but look at all the names that they would use in World War II for different organizations. They would mostly give them numbers. They still just to hide what they actually did.
Yeah, so did China with 734 or 731 or whatever it was.
Unit 731 was the Japanese unit that did the genocides in China.
Yeah.
People don't realize they did germ warfare genocide.
Yeah. That beats the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS.
Because, like, even to this day, the British call their version of the CIA is MI6.
Mm-hmm.
Their version of the FBI is MI5. How would you know, based on that, what their function is?
Mm-hmm.
If you watch this Skinamax TV show that they have a special forces type unit that intervenes around the world, and they just called it Section 20.
But yeah, but isn't in reality that just the SAS?
In the context of the show, the people that are in it, some of them are from SAS, but it's not. It's a weird thing that wouldn't really exist in the real world, because they kind of answer in the later seasons directly to a cabinet minister, which makes no sense.
My favorite is you founded SEAL teams. SEAL Team 1. Second founded, SEAL Team 2. Third team founded, SEAL Team 6. So they started like fucking with it. It's like you would hear that 6. And
they do that also to conceal the actual number that they have, because you'll find they have SEAL Team 12.
Yeah.
But there's not actually 12 SEAL teams.
Yeah, but then they, like, after 12 came 11.
And then SEAL Team 6 is not actually a SEAL team really anymore. They don't call it SEAL Team 6.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they still call them DevGru. They change their name every, like, 3 or 4 years.
Well, no, they went, now they're MARSOC.
Well, MARSOC is the Marine Corps Special Forces. It's not SEAL Team 6.
Or not MARSOC,
You got the most recent name I'm aware of that they have is DevGru, Special Warfare Development Group.
There's MARSOC and then there's...
because MARSOC is an actual thing. That's basically the Marines.
Yeah, that's a
tier 1 unit.
Yeah. Which changes all the time because we have Rangers in the Army. Then they have it keeps going back and forth between Raiders and what the hell's the other one? It also starts with an R. Raiders and good God, I'm having all sorts of brain farts now.
Technically, also in Special Forces would be Marine Force Recon, but they're not tier 1. Yeah.
Marine.
In the Army, you have Delta Force, which is Special Operations Group 1, is it? Then you have the Green Berets, who people kind of misunderstand what they do.
They're the little ones.
The Green Berets are not. They're not like Black Hawk Down, where they're going into battle that way. They go in and train indigenous forces.
Yeah, the Green Berets can run 100 miles and shoot the.
They'll go behind enemy lines, not to they themselves do direct damage. It's like they will train whatever forces exist there.
Yeah, they do this like funny thing with
as force multipliers.
Yeah, they do this funny thing with like a fake language. It's one of the few groups that you can actually fail out of. Like you can fail out of sniper school, but you don't so much fail out of being a SEAL as you have to give up. The other hand, you cannot pass to get into Ranger School or Green Beret School. You have to be of a higher intelligence.
Well, here's the weird thing about Navy SEALs and all those tier 1 groups. People don't understand you are essentially becoming the modern equivalent of a Jedi Knight, because all you do as a member of that group is train, deploy, come back from a deployment, and then just train. You become essentially a warrior monk. All you do all your life is fucking marksmanship training in different schools. It's an entire lifestyle, and you get very little free time.
I can't find the other thing for they call Raiders.
So as I'm reading this, I'm like, these people are essentially Jedi Knights. They have barely any time for a family. I don't know how these guys maintain family lives.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like you can find like a
I was shocked at how little even members of the military get marksmanship training.
Mm-hmm.
These are the only guys that are essentially shooting every week.
Yeah, Chris Kyle, 6'2". You can get that in Navy SEAL. You'll be hard pressed to get 5'6" in a Green Beret. 5'8" is like a max out. They are little dudes because they have to be able to be dropped and run 100 miles. It's a little easier to swim.
Actually, I actually saw a documentary where they said the bigger guys tend to have a harder time.
Yeah.
In the, special forces.
In most special forces, because there's like a 20-mile run every day, no matter what you're doing. So it's 20 miles baseline. Like you start your day out with a 20-mile run, and then you might do a 100-mile 3-course day. And so like it's insanely, and it really is. It's super rough on anyone of height. That's why you rarely find it outside of Navy SEALs, big special forces guys, because it's a hell of a lot easier to move around in water.
You know what the archetype is of the special forces tier 1 operator? You see the movie Sicario, right?
Mm-hmm.
The dude with the glasses. He's like the norm. It's like a guy, he's not in any way buff. You wouldn't stand out in a crowd. They don't want you to stand out.
Well, that's more CIA.
Because notice they have no uniform requirements. They allow the wearing of beards, which is a no-no in the military.
Mm-hmm.
You know, fucking guys growing Taliban beards.
Yeah, but if you're in Afghanistan or Iraq or something like that, you are draped in clothing. So the beard is to cover your face.
So that's the other thing. It's like the 6'5" Osama bin Laden is like 1 in a million out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you'd stick out like a sore thumb, this big hulking American. You know? It's like that meme with the feds that we always point to in Washington in the shorts, like all buff guys.
Yeah.
Look like they just got out of boot camp.
I mean, it's accurate, especially when you're like surrounded by 5'3" goat herders that weigh 120 pounds on the chubby side.
Because you'll notice, like, look at a picture of McCain when he got shot down in North Vietnam. He looks like the Jolly Green Giant compared to the people that captured him. They don't even come up to his shoulders.
Mm-hmm. It's like Schwarzenegger in like the first scene of Twins, when he's walking around and just there's no uneven shoulder level with him.
It's like McCain. Remember, he landed I think both his legs were broken, and they're like leading him, and it's like a giant in a land of Lilliput. These people, you got to remember, they don't eat much meat at that time. So the lack of protein means that they didn't reach their full maximum height. So for the most part, you're looking at people that are between 5'3" and 5'7".
You know, it's crazy. Look up the heights on the Three Stooges.
Just look at that differential in heights. Remember,
all under 5'5".
The difference in height between North Koreans and South Koreans, and these are people that have family ties. They're like related by kinship. And there's like half a foot almost in height differential just because of their diets. Same people. I mean, they've only been divided as a country for the last 3/4 of a century. So barely any time for multiple, 3 or 4 generations. No reason for them to have that height differential other than the fact that the people in the North don't eat.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the South, they eat, I'm not saying quite as much meat as Americans, but a lot.
Yeah, there's just so many interesting things like that.
Like I shocked my dad. Like he just assumed because like he's watching the NBA and he sees like 3/4 to 90% of teams are like all black guys, and he assumes they must be the tallest people in the world. I said nope, not even close. People don't realize this. The tallest people in the world on average are the Dutch. I don't know why.
The Dutch or Sweden?
No,
Sweden.
the Dutch. The Netherlands, 6'2", the average male.
Wow.
Apparently their diet.
I'm average over there. Rough.
It's like, so even among the Scandinavian country, technically they are a Scandinavian country, but most people don't consider them that. But
they're actually one of the hardest postings is Scandinavia for the CIA because of the diets.
They eat so much fish.
Like fermented fish and
I
all
can't
that
stand
shit.
seafood, and they just eat a ton of it naturally because they're a peninsula surrounded by water.
Yeah, the CIA when you go in country, you are of that race, that nationality, and they learned because of I think it was Vietnam that we were tracked because of our smell because we ate differently than the Vietnamese. They could smell us.
They could smell the meat in your sweat.
Yeah. So that's one of the first things they did is change the diets, and it's the hardest posting to get is like, hey, who wants to eat fermented fish? So you gotta find someone who looks of the country and then change their fucking diet.
The sweat of a meat eater smells different than a fish eater.
Mm-hmm. I've done carnivore. It gets ripe fast.
But think about it. the smell of someone who's just drank a lot. You could tell from their sweat they've been drinking.
Mhm.
You can smell the alcohol.
Oh my god, my brothers are alcoholics and they're roofers, and they have, for as much shit as I can talk about them, they have amazing work ethics. So they start out any day in Michigan. It's 40 degrees, so they're in hoodies, and then it gets up to 70, so they're out of hoodies, and they sweat through the hoodie in the morning, and they hang them up, and that hoodie is rock solid because they literally sweat out beer foam. like there's a white sweat, and like their top two layers will be just looks like a joke of like an overly starched shirt. You could grab the hoodie from like where it's hanging up in the rack and just hit somebody with it, because I have. You can wield it like a sword. It's so disgusting.
It's starch shirts.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, it's probably fucking potato or something, but they hops maybe. But they're hard.
Okay. Now you just said potato. That reminds me. That's a movie. I don't know if they reviewed. Maybe they did review it. Far and Away.
Oh, I love that movie.
No, I don't think they have.
No, they haven't. That's one of the less weird times that Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman were in a movie together.
Yeah,
There's also-
they were married at the time.
Yeah.
The last movie they made together as a married couple was Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah, so were mine. The whole movie.
Stanley Kubrick. Then didn't he die while making the movie AI?
Let's check.
Because that's why AI seems like two different movies. It's like the first half was Stanley Kubrick, then he died, and then Steven Spielberg finished it.
Stanley Kubrick died in 1999. Eyes Wide Shut came out in 1999.
It's like the first half of AI is one movie, and then the second half is another.
Well,
I'm not even
speaking
seeing AI here.
directing styles. That's what makes Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness watchable, is the fact that it's directed by Sam Raimi. And the writing is terrible, but because Sam Raimi is so talented, he manages to make the interesting bits interesting, the dark bits dark, and makes it watchable.
To me, the director is the most important element of filmmaking. Just look at the Star Wars, all 9 of the 3 trilogies, and the best one obviously is Empire, just because Lucas didn't direct it, and it was directed by Kirshner with Lucas as a producer.
Right.
And then the disastrous sequel trilogy, which is guys like Roundhead, what's his name?
Ryan Johnson.
Ryan. Oh God. Just did not get Star Wars. Just he even came in. He almost seems to like he directed the movie not liking it.
Yeah, but the one good thing that I will say about the second one, which one his name eludes me, it's not The Force Awakens. It's not The Last
Jedi.
No, what's the second one? No, it is. It's The Last Jedi. Because the last one's Rise of Skywalker. So yeah, it's The Last Jedi. It is one of the most visually pleasing movies to watch. Like this, the DP did a great job on that movie. It's like it's visually impressive to watch. It just suffers from shit writing and shit directing.
It's the literal deconstruction and destruction of Luke Skywalker.
Okay, Stanley Kubrick did not direct AI, but he worked on the project for 2 decades before his death.
Wow.
And along the way, he decided to ask Steven Spielberg to direct, saying it was closer to his sensibilities. They collaborated for several years, resulting in Kubrick giving Spielberg a complete story treatment and lots of conceptual art on the movie prior to his death, which Spielberg used to write his own scenario. Contrary to popular belief, Spielberg claims that he introduced many of the darker elements of the story, while Kubrick's main contribution consists mostly of the sweeter parts. In a 2002 interview with the movie's critic Joel Lydon, Spielberg indicated that the middle part of the movie, including the flesh fair, was his idea, whereas the first 40 minutes, the teddy bear, and the last 20 minutes were taken straight from Kubrick's story. Ian Watson, who wrote Kubrick's original treatment, confirmed that even the much criticized ending, assumed by many to be a typical Spielberg edition, was exactly what Stanley and he had wrote, and Spielberg treated it faithfully.
I don't know what I ever. That's why it would be interesting to know what Matt's take is, because
So Eyes Wide Shut was his last direction.
the ending of AI. Would you say that's a happy ending? Because the more I think about it, the more I think it's not a happy ending. It's actually kind of horrifying. He sits in the ice for thousands of years, staring at Blue Fairy, and an advanced race of robots wakes him up and tells him they'll grant his wish, but he can only spend one day with mommy. And then that's it. So it's like he traded 6,000 years of existence for one day with mommy. And really, it's not mommy. It's just kind of like an alien robotic mimicry of her, or was there some time manipulation involved? I don't even remember. What was that?
In this picture, Frances O'Connor looks exactly like a brown-haired Julie Bowden.
Oh man, did you see the stream where I showed the dog with the gun, the dog robot, the Boston Dynamics? I'm like,
it needs a tail.
It needs more weight to handle the recoil.
Yeah, it needs a tail for that recoil.
Either that or just start out aiming lower. I don't know.
I just don't know how you're going to get it to have a German accent. Well, Austrian. Because that somehow makes sense.
It'd be funny if somebody actually made an Ed 209 for RoboCop. You have 10 seconds to comply.
Maynard says it's sad. I agree with Maynard.
Yeah, it's like, even though he got what he wanted at the end of AI, it's kind of a fucked up ending. Which, believe me, I could go for a movie with a bad ending. That never bothered me, but I'm talking about people's. A lot of people, I think their initial reaction is to say, "Oh, it's a happy ending. You got to be with mommy."
Speaking of happy endings, it's 12:30 there.
Yeah, it's just about almost bedtime.
Dragging these people through some nonsense now.
Well, what did you expect?
Yeah. Well, we'll invite anybody who's free to talk to the half-hour chat, where we'll get the fuck out of here eventually. So thank you for a wonderful conversation. Do you have any other thoughts of what to add to Matt's list? Because I was doing it in my head, and I've got way too many fucking sword movies.
Really?
Well, I've got Red Sonja. I've got She-Ra or Sheena. I've got fucking Beastmaster, Willow. I'm like, oh my god,
okay.
Give me a gun.
Did you see Willow series?
What? No.
Yep, with the original actor who looks like he'd barely aged.
Warwick Davis?
Yep, he's the title character, Willow.
Okay.
There's a series?
Yep.
What's it on?
Let's look it up. Willow the series.
Oh, okay.
Just saw the trailer for it.
so it's not out yet?
Should be coming out soon. They're putting out the trailer for it. Willow the series.
TV series. Okay. It's
November 30th, 2022 on Disney Plus.
oh god damn it. You're lucky I bought a year of Disney.
Warwick Davis as Willow Ufgood, a Nelwyn dwarf sorcerer.
They're gonna race swap Mad Mardigan. Maybe sex swap them too. You know, I hated those little fucking guys.
They actually came out with a Dark Crystal series, which was pretty good.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it Henson's Workshop or who did it?
It was the same style. I don't know. I think it was Jim Henson Workshop. Let me see. Dark Crystal, the series.
You stop barking, dog.
Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance.
Oh, so it's anti-Trump.
So apparently, the Dark Crystal had a crack in it from the movie, and this one deals with the consequences of that crack.
Did it though? I mean, that was kind of the whole plot, is they had to get the shard back in it to heal it.
Or is this was a prequel? I forget. Let's see. American fantasy television series produced by Netflix and the Jim Henson Company. It is a prequel to the '82 Jim Henson film,
Oh, okay.
exploring the world of Thra, created for the original film. Following the story of three Gelflings, Rian, Deet, and Brea, as they journey together on a quest to unite the Gelfling clans to rise against the tyrannical Skeksis and save their planet Thra from a destructive blight known as the Darkening. The series premiered August 30th, 2019 to critical acclaim. In September 2020, it was announced that the series had been canceled after one season.
Critical acclaim.
Oh.
And did not get a second season.
Oh man, they missed out.
It was 10 episodes.
Mercedes Kilmer, who is Val Kilmer. Wait.
What?
Wow, they had big name stars doing the voice work in this thing. Anya Taylor-Joy, Natalie Emmanuel.
Did Frank
Catriona
Welker get
Balfe.
Well, did Frank Welker get a credit? That's what we need to know.
Simon Pegg. Mark Hamill.
Yeah, Saoirse.
Lena
Saoirse. Yeah, Saoirse played the Queen in the Willow movie. Her daughter Mercedes Kilmer could be like the next ruler, and that would cross off two birds. You don't need Joanne Wiley or Val Kilmer in the TV series. You just have Mercedes Kilmer. She looks just like her mother.
They do have the IMDb up with the cast.
Ooh, I'm gonna add Top Secret to my list. That way, I've got a movie with guns in it.
I know a little German.
I don't
He's
see
sitting
any
right over there.
Mad Mortigan.
Chocolate mousse. Well, Val. Yeah, he can't talk, so I doubt they're gonna Top Gun Maverick him into the movie or into the series.
Oh, you know who they stuck in the Willow series? Remember the chick that was wearing the bounty hunter armor in the Han Solo movie Solo?
I don't watch Star Wars.
She's in there. Erin Kellyman.
All right, let's sign off so we can get to the after hours,
Yes,
and
do
that way we can Google more shit.
that. Yeah. No kidding.
All right, have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.